Chapter 1602. Yiqing Luo had yet to reply. Su Xiaolian was the first to reply. Devil class students killed 52 students from Wind Vane Academy in order to snatch the magic crystals. When the students from various academies heard that, they all looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction in disbelief. Following that, the other academies also heard this sentence. What? Killing people for the magic crystals? Devil class is too arrogant. They even dared to kill people. We must report this matter to Master Gui Wu. This kind of vicious and cruel academy should be expelled from the academy forever. Right. We must report this to Master Gui Wu, to the main courtyard. Heavenly Academy is too much. 1,500 over students were gathered in one hall. Just one sentence from each of them could overturn the entire blazing lair. However, the devil class, which was condemned by the masses, remained silent on the spot. Not a single sound was heard and there was no expression on their faces. It was like they didn't listen to anyone's words at all. Hey! Devil class, what's with your attitude? Did you really think that you can do anything just because you performed well during the training? A few of the academy's students were already extremely dissatisfied with Yiqing Luo. Especially, there were at least 17 to 18 academies which had their magic crystals stolen by devil class. Now seeing devil class being involved in such a big matter, all of them couldn't wait to step on it a few times to vent the anger in their hearts. Cough, one must know that there were only 28 academies who entered the blazing lair for training. There were 17 to 18 academies which had been robbed. The remaining academies, if it wasn't for the fact that they reacted fast enough to seek cooperation from Nan Tao Academy, they would probably have been robbed by devil class. One devil class, 50 to 60 people. But they had robbed one after another. The maximum number of people was 300, at least 50 academies. Devil class's ability was indeed very strong. But it was different now. Their various academies were all gathered together. 1,000 over students, why would they be afraid of a 50 to 60 people devil class? Especially when devil class was involved in a murder case. Even here, they had ruthlessly taught a lesson to a bunch of devil class students. By then, they could also say that it was because devil class was disobedient after killing someone and forcefully fought with them, trying to escape. And they were the envoys of justice, stopping devil class. Thinking like this, the various academies' students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo instantly turned sinister. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, as her mind kept on spinning rapidly. She didn't have the leisure to pay attention to those insignificant words from the various academies. His mind was filled with strange thoughts. This was too strange. Had she overlooked something? His brain was working non-stop. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's gaze fixed on a certain spot. That was in Zi Qianqian's direction. At this moment, Zi Qianqian was looking at the surrounding students from the various academies, his eyes filled with joy and surprise. Su Xiaolian whispered something into Zi Qianqian's ear. Zi Qianqian's face lit up with joy, and his eyes emitted an intense and dense killing intent. Shortly after, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Immediately after, Su Xiaolian held onto Zi Qianqian's arm and was about to take advantage of the commotion to sneak away. However, he heard a cold interrogative voice. Why did you all rush over at the same time? That was Yiqing Luo's voice. The entire audience fell silent for several breaths of time. Even Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1603. What the? This slut is too arrogant. How dare she question us in return? What does it have to do with you how we rushed over? You're a woman who doesn't hesitate to kill others in order to plunder magic crystals. What rights do you have to question us? Yiqing Luo, you've already violated Ghost Martial Masters competition rules. Your heavenly academy has already been eliminated. All the students from the various academies started to berate her furiously. One after another, it shook everyone's ears as though it was pierced by a sharp blade. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her eyes were covered with frost, so cold that it could pierce through one's bones. Her gaze swept past the surrounding students one by one. I'll ask again, why on earth did all of you rush over at the same time? That chilling gaze made the students from the various academies inexplicably tighten their hearts. They were completely stunned by this pair of eyes. Whether it was the heart or the soul. As though they were pinched in the palm of Yiqing Luo's hand. They were powerless to struggle, powerless to break free. What kind of imposing manner was this? How arrogant must it be, to be able to make them feel that they couldn't defy it? This majestic aura was actually from a young lady. A young lady who they originally looked down on, released such an imposing manner. Madam Qing Luo, we heard the commotion over here and saw. It seemed like it was on fire and was filled with smoke. We thought something had happened, so we came over. The one who spoke was the one who was rescued by the stream. Me too. Right. I was attracted by that ball of smoke, but the minute I came over, I only saw you guys. Right, it's smoke. When these words were said by the few academies at the same time, the crowd instantly understood something. Immediately, their faces turned pale. Oh no. There's a trap. Suddenly, the students from the various academies saw a shadow flashing past in midair. In a breath's time, they saw Yiqing Luo standing in front of Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian. Zi Qianqian was apparently shocked. When Yiqing Luo appeared, she gave a shrill shriek as she retreated several steps backwards. If it wasn't for Su Xiaolian who kept pulling her, Zi Qianqian would have fallen onto the ground in a sorry state. What do you want to do? Ah! Before Zi Qianqian could finish his sentence, he suddenly let out a miserable shriek. Yiqing Luo directly stretched out her hand and clasped Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Her slender fingers were sparkling like jade, like the most beautiful jade in the world. However, in Zi Qianqian's eyes, those hands were torture tools from hell. Her jade-like fingers seemed to be lightly resting on Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Only Zi Qianqian himself knew. Her shoulder bones had already been crushed by Yiqing Luo. The intense pain caused Zi Qianqian's facial features to contort. Yiqing Luo's elbow slightly exerted force as her 5 fingers clasped onto Zi Qianqian's lower jaw. It's you. A voice as calm as still water came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. His eyes were ice-cold. Emotionless words. This caused Zi Qianqian's heart to gradually sink into a state of collapse. This was not a question. It was a certainty. Yiqing Luo had already guessed that all these were because of her. Zi Qianqian was in so much pain that her face turned pale. However, when she thought about the current situation, she could not help but laugh coldly. So what if it's me? Yiqing Luo, you can no longer escape. All of you will die. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly. Her long and narrow eyes outlined a cold arc. Her 5 fingers tightened again. The lower jaw bone was also directly shattered in Yiqing Luo's palm. Chapter 1604. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out from Zi Qianqian's mouth. Yiqing Luo loosened her fingers. Zi Qianqian fell weakly onto the ground. Su Xiaolian immediately supported Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Bright red blood oozed from her mouth. You want to kill someone in front of so many students? You simply have no respect for the law. Su Xiaolian was so frightened that her entire body trembled. She felt uneasy as she looked at her blood-stained hands. Your debt will be settled by Master Gue Wu and the headquarters. Not only will the two of you become the sinners of the Nirvana realm, but your two families will also be destroyed because of your foolish actions today. Yiqing Luo's slender brows furrowed slightly as her clear and charming eyes shot straight toward Zi Qianqian. You, his powerful aura was so oppressive that Su Xiaolian couldn't even make a sound. Zi Qianqian's fingers trembled as she tightly grasped Su Xiaolian's sleeve. His blood-stained hands looked especially horrifying. You, all of you, must die today. Every single word was like a demon demanding his life. The surrounding students felt their hairs stand on end when they saw Zi Qianqian's ferocious and bloody appearance. Get out of here. Yes, let's go first. This place is too strange. After coming to their senses, the leaders of the various academies immediately called out to their students and spread out in all directions. They could stand in the fire nest. This also meant that they were elite students handpicked by the various academies. Not only was he talented, he was also not stupid. After Yiqing Luo's reminder and looking at Zi Qianqian's attitude, soon, he understood. This was a trap. It's useless. We can't get out of here. Yiqing Luo looked at the students who were escaping in all directions as her eyes were covered with a chilly intent. She had always been vigilant and calculative. However, he didn't expect that the dark faction would use Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian, these two cripples, to set up a forbidden spell formation here. Furthermore, he had lured all of the students here. Dark forces, he was prepared to make his move. How would these students be able to leave this place? As expected, the students who had scattered and left one after another retreated step by step. One by one, they returned to their original positions. He forced the students of the academy to retreat step by step. They were rows of black-robed figures. Their imposing manner was like that of evil spirits that had come from hell. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sized up the surrounding dark forces which were pressing over. As expected, it was just as the mutated beast had said. There were about 400 people in the Dark Coalition. Although there were only 400 Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, but, facing these young men and women who had yet to experience slaughter and had yet to truly step onto the battlefield, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Even if the total number of students added up was 1,500 people, it would be impossible for them to win. But the Dark Forces wanted to deal with them. It was also a piece of cake. This group of dark people, Yiqing Luo could clearly sense the extremely strong profound yin qi on them. These dark beings. It was different from the dark ones she had met before. Be it in terms of strength or intelligence, this batch of dark ones was more than a level higher than the dark ones they had encountered before. What is this? What's going on? Why can't we get out? Why did he come back? And these damn things, who the hell are they? For a moment, the fear in the students' hearts was ignited. Chapter 1605. The students of the various academies were already panicking out of their wits. Boss and I, what should we do? These people don't look friendly. Boss and I, aren't we competing in the academy? These people. Could it be that these people were deliberately sent by Master Gue Wu to increase the pressure on us? Boss and I, can we leave this place alive? Voices filled with fear rang out. The person who was called Boss and I in the middle was Nantao Academy's boss, who was also the Academy's representative, Ni Lingkong. Ni Lingkong was the strongest person in Class A1 of Nantao Academy. It was similar to the existence of High Profound Class 2 in the Heavenly Academy, Lu Shuiyu. After entering the Flame Lair for training, Nantao Academy had always listened to Ni Lingkong's orders and persisted until now. Now that something had happened, everyone's first thought was to seek Ni Lingkong's help. Ni Linkhong's expression was grave as if he was facing a formidable enemy. They had already reached an agreement with 7 or 8 academies. And he was prepared to collect more magic crystals to defeat the Heavenly Academy in one fell swoop. Just as the few academies were discussing how to deal with the devil class. Suddenly, a series of shouts came from not far away. Then, he saw black smoke rising from the sky not far away. Just like a fire, black smoke filled the entire nest that was glowing with scarlet flames. The other academies thought that since there were many of them, there was nothing to be afraid of, so they all headed in that direction. Unexpectedly, but he couldn't get out of this damned place. He looked around at the black-robed men surrounding them. Ni Linkhong was not foolish enough to think that this was an opponent sent by Guiwu to increase their pressure. Ni Linkhong had a bad feeling when he saw the bodies of the 50-odd students from the Wind Vane Academy lying on the ground. Han Shang, what do you think we should do now? Ni Linkhong's vision fell onto his own brother, Mo Han Shang. Mo Han Shang was the young master of the Mercenary Association. He had been in the mercenary guild since he was young, following other mercenary groups around. In terms of wilderness survival and actual combat experience, he far surpassed them. Linkhong, this matter isn't simple. These people. I'm afraid they are the Dark Ones from the Dark Forces. Mo Han Shang squinted his delicate brows, as he stared at the surrounding black-robed men. Dark Forces. Ni Linkhong's face turned pale. Why would someone from the Dark Organization appear in the flame lair? Could it be? Ni Linkhong's gaze suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It's her. She's the one who attracted the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo had once engaged in a fierce battle with the Dark Forces in King Ling's tomb. With the power of the Holy Beast and the Divine Dragon, they defeated the Dark Forces. Meanwhile, the Dark Forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm once again, attracting the attention of the major sects and clans, and they worked together to deal with the Dark Forces. What's more, Yiqing Luo and the Imperial Palace's DMO Xian's relationship was not shallow. Recently, the Imperial Palace had been fighting with the Dark Forces several times. A series of conjectures appeared in his mind, and Ni Linkhong increasingly felt that the Dark Forces were targeting Yiqing Luo. If they were here for Yiqing Luo, then they just had to hand Yiqing Luo over. Wouldn't that solve the problem? Linkhong, dispel your thoughts. Mo Han Shang could tell what Ni Linkhong was thinking with a single glance. He calmly lifted his eyelids. If the Dark Forces were here for Qing Luo, they wouldn't have made such a big fuss. What do you mean? Ni Linkhong frowned. Chapter 1606. Barrier. Ni Linkhong cried out in surprise. No wonder, they couldn't leave this place no matter what. It turned out that the way was blocked by a barrier. The barrier was clearly set up by the Dark Forces. From what Qing Luo said to Zi Qianqian earlier, if I didn't guess wrongly. I'm afraid this dark force was attracted over by Zi Qianqian. This barrier was able to be conjured under the eyes of Gue Wu and the other elders, and it was all because of Zi Qianqian's help. Mo Han Shang's analysis made Ni Linkhong's expression suddenly turn gloomy. A pair of sharp eyes glared fiercely at Zi Qianqian, who was leaning against Su Xiaolian in a sorry state and covered in blood. I've heard that the Dark Forces have always been enticing profound practitioners to sign soul contracts with them. Mo Han Shang's gaze was solemn, which also represents that the forces of darkness require the souls of profound practitioners, and this time, the forces of darkness have trapped us within this barrier, so I'm afraid it's because they want to take away our souls. Take away our souls. Ni Linkhong's expression turned ugly. Are we all going to die here? Not necessarily. Mo Han Shang suddenly raised his eyes, as his gaze went past Ni Linkhong, looking straight at a certain spot behind him. Cooperate with Qing Luo, and drag on till Master Gue Wu breaks the barrier, and rushes over to save us. Devil class is Yiqing Luo. Ni Linghong's brows creased. Why are you so close to that bunch of people from Devil class? We had just agreed to cooperate with various academies and now we're cooperating with Yiqing Luo. When your life is at stake, the most important thing is to stay alive, isn't it? Mo Han Shang smiled as he patted Ni Linghong's shoulder lightly. For the sake of the overall situation, believe in Qing Luo. Ni Linghong and Mo Han Shang had been good friends for many years. Ni Linghong knew his brother's character very well. He was someone who could make the young master of the Mercenary Association, who was used to seeing outstanding profound practitioners, look at him in a different light. There must be something special about her. With this thought in mind, Ni Linghong clenched his fists. All right. I'll believe you this time. Saying that, Ni Linghong pushed aside those students behind him and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The enemy was right in front of them. Both sides' auras clashed, but no one dared to act rashly. As for the academies, they had placed all their hopes on the Nantao Academy. Seeing this, the boss of Nantao College moved. The gazes of all the students also followed closely. Following that, she saw Ni Linghong standing in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she sized up the imposing young man in front of her. Student Yiqing Luo, those people dressed in black robes, are the Dark Forces' dark agents, right? Ni Linghong didn't beat around the bush as he spoke out directly. Dark Forces. The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. The whispers of fear and clamor grew louder. When the Dark Forces heard Ni Linghong's question, they sneered disapprovingly. They had no intention of deliberately concealing their identities. Even if they knew that they were Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, so what? In the end, these students would still be buried here. Oh. So Boss Ni also knows about the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as though she was in deep thoughts. What you said is right. Their bodies are all emitting the Dark Force's dark aura. As for Ni Linghong's goal, Yiqing Luo could more or less guess what was going on. Chapter 1607. Yiqing Luo glanced behind him with a smile which didn't look like a smile, as though she was hesitating and wanted to speak out. If Nantao Academy were to cooperate with me now, wouldn't we be letting down the other academy's good intentions? What she guessed earlier was indeed right. They had plundered the various academies' magic crystals. Those academies had indeed gone over to Nantao Academy. Now this scenario was a little awkward. A few academies had gone over to Nantao Academy to seek cooperation, seeking to get rid of Heavenly Academy, in order to take revenge for their stolen magic crystals. Now, Nantao Academy's big boss had initiated cooperation with Heavenly Academy's Yiqing Luo. Those few big bosses who had gone over to Nantao Academy had a colorful expression on their faces. Ni Linghong was stunned as he turned back to look at those few big bosses and opened his mouth, wanting to explain something. A slender hand was placed on his shoulder. Mo Han Shang walked up slowly as he stared at Yiqing Luo with some reproach. Qing Luo, stop making fun of him. Soon after, Mo Han Shang's expression was calm as he looked at the few big bosses of the academy. It's just as what all the students are thinking. These people are all from the Dark Forces. Moreover, they want to take away all of our lives, as well as our souls. Under the current situation, we must unite. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the Academy's competition, isn't that so? Those few big bosses' expressions started to congeal. If these people were from the Dark Forces, if they wanted to escape from the Dark Forces, then they must rely on themselves. What Mo Han Shang said was very right. Only by surviving would they have the capital to fight. If they lost their lives, what was the point of them seeking refuge to Nantao Academy to go against Heavenly Academy? Right. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the Academy. Now isn't the time for personal grudges, the other party is from the dark forces. I heard that the dark forces are a bunch of devils who kill without batting an eyelid. Their methods are cruel and extremely bloody. Unite! Unite! The few Academy's students raised their arms and cheered loudly at this instance. It immediately ignited all the students' fighting spirit. Those few academies happened to be the academies which Yiqing Luo had saved by the stream. Yiqing Luo looked at the surrounding students' morale, which was obviously ignited. But this kind of passion didn't last for too long. All of you, shut up. A sharp, furious voice came from the Dark Coalition. The Dark Ones slowly dispersed, revealing a small path. One of them was wearing a long black robe. Her figure was curvy under the black robe. Yiqing Qian. When Yiqing Luo saw that person, her slender brows rose slightly into an arc. She had actually come in person. Then, that wolf Saint Law, who doted on her to the bone, had also come. Yiqing Qian didn't use the black robe to cover her face as she exposed her face in front of everyone's eyes. Her exquisite eyebrows had now become even more alluring and alluring. Just like a real fox. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were stunned on the spot. Yiqing Qian. You are Yiqing Qian. Someone recognized Yiqing Qian's face. They couldn't believe it, that fickle Yiqing Qian who had become a laughingstock in Three Springs City had actually become a member of the Dark Forces. Moreover, looking at Yiqing Qian's expression. Clearly, his position in the dark world was not low. Whoosh, there was a piercing sound. Yiqing Qian's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Chapter 1608. Ah! That Intermediate Profound Class 2 student only felt a cold glint flashing past her face. That cold glint revealed an extremely dense murderous aura. She retreated backwards in horror. But how could her speed match up to the current Yiqing Qian? That burst of profound chi was like a hot knife through butter, directly pressing towards the Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face. Bam! Just when the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students thought that they were dead meat. But they didn't feel the pain that they had imagined. She quietly opened her eyes. The first thing that entered his eyes was a feather fan that was gorgeous like a fiery glow. The stars and fire were flickering, beautiful beyond compare. Glower Flame Fan. This was Yiqing Luo's Glower Flame Fan. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were ecstatic as they looked towards the direction of the feather fan. Sure enough, they saw Yiqing Luo standing by her side, using the Glower Flame Fan to block Yiqing Qian's attack. Madam Qing Luo, thank you. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways, stand aside. The female student had just saved her life, naturally she didn't dare to disobey as she trembled and returned to her companions. At this moment, the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students looked at Yiqing Qian with shock and astonishment, and also hatred and disgust. Who could have expected that Yiqing Qian, who had a bad reputation, would use such a method to once again appear in front of everyone? From today onwards, please call me Guardian Hu. Yiqing Qian's curved brows, when she spoke, her voice rose, revealing a trace of amorous feelings. If anyone calls this guardian's name wrongly, the next move is not something that Yiqing Luo can block even if she wants to. None of the students dared to open their mouths. Yiqing Luo swayed the Glower Flame Fan. Her footsteps were light as she passed through the crowd and walked towards Yiqing Qian. The students, because of Yiqing Luo's actions, they all sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Everyone's gazes were fixed on Yiqing Luo. That figure, petite and lovely. But it revealed a sense of oppression that couldn't be ignored, slender but proud. You. What do you want to do? Yiqing Qian saw Yiqing Luo walking towards her. Her fear towards Yiqing Luo made her unable to restrain her pale face as she trembled slightly. The scenes of the past. It appeared in front of Yiqing Qian. The humiliation that Yiqing Luo had brought to her. She would never forget it. Hatred and anger surged from Yiqing Qian's heart. There were circles of mysterious yin qi lingering in those amorous eyes. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and stared at the circle of black qi in Yiqing Qian's eyes as she smiled calmly. Eldest sister really has true love for the wolf saint technique. In order to be together with the wolf saint technique, you can even abandon the Yi family and Three Springs sect. If old ancestor were to find out about this, I wonder if he would fulfill eldest sister's wish to leave the Yi family's genealogy. Yiqing Luo's words pointed out Yiqing Qian's current situation. Wolf Saint technique. It was obviously a certain boss of the underground forces. In other words, Yiqing Qian really couldn't change her fickle character. Even after arriving at the underground forces, she still resorted to all sorts of methods to seduce men. That was how she managed to achieve such a position in the underground forces. Ha! Instead of worrying about this protector, why don't you worry more about yourselves? Yiqing Qian gave a cold harumph as her eyes turned chilly. When the array is combined into one, all of you will. She suddenly lowered her voice as she leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear and spat out a word with a sneer, die. Silence. A deathly silence. The entire fire lair fell into silence. Chapter 1609. When she heard the last three words, Yiqing Qian's face suddenly turned pale. That voice was clear and ethereal. As though a voice from hell. Using an extremely gentle voice, bringing her along to hell. You. Yiqing Qian's heart thumped as she was so frightened that she retreated several steps back. After being supported by the few black-robed men, Yiqing Qian still had some lingering fears. Sinister and vicious eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo, who was pressing on. But she saw Yiqing Luo's lips curling into a smile. Her eyes were calm. That smile, which didn't look like a smile, was gazing at her, as though it was bottomless. As though there was a whirlpool, which was pulling her into that whirlpool. Yiqing Qian quivered as her fingers clenched into a fist as her expression turned vigilant. Yiqing Luo. I'd like to see what other great abilities you have. Even if Yiqing Luo had wings now, she would absolutely not be able to escape from this place. Setting up an enchantment and a forbidden spell array. Yiqing Luo would definitely die today. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she waved her feather fan and turned back to Devil Class's side. Long Yun Zhan and the rest immediately went up to her. Are you all right? I'm fine. Yiqing Luo saw everyone's worried gazes as she shook her head. This time the dark forces obviously came prepared. Looks like King of Darkness's requirement towards us young and clean cultivators' souls is increasing. This also meant that King of Darkness's seal was about to be lifted. So, these student souls, we must protect them. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her voice turned chilly. Earlier Yiqing Qian mentioned combining the arrays. Is it this forbidden spell array and the array which absorbs our soul power? Ni Ruopen asked softly. Yiqing Luo nodded. It should be like this. The dark ones of the dark forces only surrounded them here. They didn't start a massacre. Which was enough to tell that they had a deeper motive. Yiqing Qian's earlier words about combining the arrays, Yiqing Luo hadn't thought deeply into it. Ni Ruopan instead saw through the clues. She had to admit that the dark forces had really made sufficient preparations this time round. An unbreakable barrier. A forbidden spell array which could continuously provide the dark forces energy. Coupled with a forbidden spell array which could absorb souls. When these two arrays were completely combined, These 1,000 students were totally meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Qing Luo, you've crossed hands with the dark forces before and you have such a stunning performance in this aspect. How should we leave this ghastly place now? Mo Han Shang also heard their discussion as he opened his mouth to ask with a grave expression. Yi Qing Luo looked at the various academies' bosses and they had all automatically gathered around Devil Class's surroundings. Upon hearing Mo Han Shang's question, they all started to speak. Once they heard Mo Han Shang's question, all started. However, they understood that once the formation was united, they would all die here. The reason why the dark forces are so powerful is because they have forbidden spells or secret techniques that our Nirvana realm can't use. Yi Qing Luo explained, but this kind of forbidden curse or secret art usage belongs to the act of going against heaven's will, destroying the laws of this heaven way. The person who cast the curse will also suffer the punishment of heaven way. Mo Han Shang's eyes lit up. Your meaning is, as long as we find the person who cast the curse, we can destroy the array. Chapter 16:10. Although that elder's battle power is lacking, his spirit power is extremely strong. Furthermore, he knows a lot of curse techniques and secret techniques. Because of that, the Darkness Protector will definitely protect that elder very well. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept past the surrounding academy's bosses. Mo Han Shang was the first to react. I understand. We have to pay attention to where the Dharma protectors are the most concentrated. That's where the elders who cast the curse are hiding. That's right. Yi Qing Luo gave Mo Han Shang an admiring look. This kid's reaction was godly. What should we do? Ni Lingkong's brows creased as he looked at Mo Han Shang, who was looking at Yi Qing Luo with a look of worship, as his expression was slightly impatient. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she gave a light smile. If you're willing to listen to my instructions, perhaps we might have a chance to destroy the array. The academy bosses' faces darkened as they looked at each other for a long time. Towards Yi Qing Luo. All the academies were unable to wholeheartedly trust him. Although the Devil class had been performing exceptionally well and outstandingly in the special training recently. However, Yi Qing Luo's reputation as the useless seventh Missy had already spread all over the country. A person who had been called trash for more than a decade. It was just a few days of dazzling performance. It really wasn't enough to wash away everyone's perception. Amidst this strange silence, Qian Kun Academy's eldest brother Shi Ruoyu replied in a deep voice, My Qian Kun Academy will listen to student Yi Qing Luo's instructions. Yi Qing Luo nodded with a faint smile. After a few breaths' time, another student spoke up. Luo Mo Yuan, represent the King College and listen to Yi Qing Luo's instructions. Following that, the leaders of the academies expressed their opinions one after another. These academies were mostly the academies which were saved by Yi Qing Luo earlier at the riverside. The remaining dozen academies still had some resistance and hesitation in their hearts. After all, this Yi Qing Luo had led Devil class to snatch their magic crystals not too long ago. Now, they had to obey Yi Qing Luo. It was really difficult to choose. I don't agree. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out. She saw Ji Tsangtian arrogantly raising his head. Yi Qing Luo, you slut, how dare you deploy my Celestial Phoenix Academy students? The dark forces have appeared here because of you. Ji Tsangtian's words made the entire space sink into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly as her gaze met Ji Tsangtian's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly, a smile lingering at the corner of her mouth. Once again, she had guessed correctly. This Ji Tsangtian was indeed involved with the dark forces. However, this Ji Tsangtian wasn't tainted by the profound Yin Qi. It seemed like the dark forces had put in a lot of effort to make her lower her guard. Ji Tsangtian's words indeed made some sense. However, it didn't make sense. Her existence was merely a fuse. Even if she wasn't here. The dark forces needed a large number of clean souls of young profound practitioners. He could only start from the various academies. Even if it wasn't now. In the near future, these students would also become food for the King of Darkness. Ji Tsang Tian saw Yi Qing Luo not saying a word. He thought that what Lan Ling Nuo had taught him was the truth. Immediately, he straightened his back and snorted coldly. Don't think that I don't know the inside story. The dark forces have chased you all the way here to seek revenge. You want to use everyone's power to help you deal with the dark forces. Ji Tsang Tian finished his words. The expressions of the dozen or so academy bosses, who were still hesitating, changed drastically. Chapter 1611. Students like them had no grudges with the dark forces. Why would the underworld organization want their lives? In the various academies. Only the devil class of the Heavenly Academy had enmity with the dark forces. If the dark organization had come to the flame lair for revenge, then the dark organization would not have come to the flame lair. It did make sense. Big Brother Tsangtian is right, don't even think about using everyone's power. Lan Ling Nuo chimed in. You still haven't given us an explanation for the students of the Wind Vein Academy dying in the blazing nest, and now you're trying to trick us into dying for you. You're too vicious. When Ji Tsang Tian heard his beloved woman helping him, he became even more complacent. The more the bosses of the academies listened, the more indignant they felt. Wasn't this Yi Qing Luo too sinister? He actually wanted to use everyone. Hearing everyone's abuse and doubts towards Yi Qing Luo, Shi Ruoxi's eyes instantly turned red as she retorted, You're the representatives of the academy, are you people who listen to the wind and rain? Mo Han Shang nodded his head and chimed in, Student Ji Tsang Tian's words have no proof, on what basis do you think that Qing Luo wants to make use of everyone? His voice paused as an icy cold intent flashed past Mo Han Shang's eyes. If we're talking about making use of others, I think you, Ji Tsang Tian, are that kind of treacherous villain. Ever since he heard Zhao Bo's story, Mo Han Shang's impression of Ji Tsang Tian was extremely bad. You took advantage of your brother's feelings and trust towards you. For the sake of Lan Ling Nuo, you killed your own brother who has gone through life and death with you. Even now, you don't have any regrets and are still together with this woman. Mo Han Shang gave a cold laugh, just based on your character, whatever you say, I won't believe a single word. You. Ji Tsang Tian's face instantly sunk. One's dark history was actually brought out in the open. No one would be able to tolerate it. In the past, they were afraid of Mo Han Shang because Mo Han Shang was the Mercenary Association's young patriarch. Now, his Ji family had been completely blacklisted by the Mercenary Union. Why would he need to curry favor with a young master? Immediately, Ji Tsang Tian's face turned black as he released Lan Ling Nuo's waist as he raised his palm and struck out a palm wind towards Mo Han's hang. Ji Tsang Tian. Mo Han Shang's expression sunk as he raised his hand to counterattack. His shoulder was pressed down by a slender palm. A red feather fan flashed with an enchanting brilliance. It easily blocked Ji Tsang Tian's palm wind. Yi Qing Luo slowly walked past Mo Han Shang and stood in front of him as her eyes squinted as she looked at Ji Tsang Tian quietly. Her face was expressionless and her eyes were cold. Ji Tsang Tian's body trembled slightly, and under that gaze, he actually wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Ji Tsang Tian resisted the urge to embarrass himself as he went on full alert. Don't waste time with him. He's just trying to stall for time. Yi Qing Luo's chilly voice drifted into everyone's ears. Like a clap of thunder, every word and sentence struck the hearts of everyone present. If you don't believe me, feel free to leave. Of course, if the dark forces try to stop you from leaving, I won't help you at all. If you trust me, then don't say anything more and hurry up." The leaders of the dozen academies hesitated. She looked at Ji Tsang Tian's direction for some time. In the end, there were 5 to 6 academies who gritted their teeth and walked towards Yiqing Luo. With this departure, several academies also followed closely behind. After all, it was a matter of life and death. No one dared to use their own lives or their fellow students' lives to gamble. In the end, no matter how Ji Tsang Tian shouted. Chapter 16:12. Yiqing Luo used the shortest time possible to arrange the various academies' students into their respective responsibilities. After a few days of training, Yiqing Luo more or less had some understanding towards the various academies' comprehensive ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to lead the devil class to plunder 18 academies' magic crystals so smoothly. From the start to the end, there wasn't any special activity from the dark forces. Yiqing Qian stood in front of the dark forces as she sneered at them. That gaze seemed as though she was looking at an ant struggling at death's door. It could be seen that the dark forces had made sufficient preparations this time round. They also had absolute confidence to take in all the students' souls. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Yiqing Qian's complacent expression as a cold smile flashed past her eyes. Seeing the dark forces being so arrogant, she was even more assured towards her own plan. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked at the students who were all ready to go into action and laughed lightly. "Before we start, I still need to settle something." Saying that, she turned around and faced Zi Qianqian's direction. Su Xiaolian was supporting Zi Qianqian, who was covered in blood and moaning in pain as they left silently. They were already far away from the crowd and were just a few steps away from leaving the array barrier. Suddenly, the surroundings became extremely quiet. Su Xiaolian's footsteps halted as she felt a chill down her spine. She realized something as she turned her head around. Indeed, she saw Yiqing Luo's arms were crossed as she looked at Zi Qianqian and her direction with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Su Xiaolian's legs turned into jelly as she immediately supported Zi Qianqian and quickened her footsteps as they dashed forward. Behind her, a ghostly laughter followed closely. "Did you think that you helped them to bury the array's medium, the dark forces would let you off just because of that?" That voice was right beside her ears. Su Xiaolian was so frightened that her legs turned into jelly as she didn't manage to support Zi Qianqian properly. She was even tripped by Zi Qianqian's leg. The both of them fell onto the ground. What dark forces, you're spouting rubbish." Su Xiaolian's body trembled as she looked at Yiqing Luo in terror. "We didn't help the dark forces, we obviously only." "Shut up." Zi Qianqian endured the pain as he berated Su Xiaolian angrily and subsequently stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. "It's your people who said that everything must be based on evidence. We don't know any dark forces at all. How could we help them bury a matrix medium?" Yiqing Luo slowly curled her dimples into a smile. "The area of this forbidden spell array is so huge, in order to bury the medium, it must have taken up quite a lot of time. And the person who buried the medium, his hands should have been tainted with thick profound yin qi." As soon as she finished speaking, Su Xiaolian had already reflexively raised her hand and sniffed it. "Idiot!" Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth and glared at Su Xiaolian. Only then did Su Xiaolian realize her mistake and hurriedly put her hands behind her back. However, her instinctive behavior had already fallen into the eyes of the students from the various academies. "Yes or no, I will not say for now." Yiqing Luo squatted down and her fingertips suddenly flicked out a pill and slipped it into Zi Qianqian's mouth. Zi Qianqian wanted to vomit, but the pill melted in her mouth. Following that, Yiqing Luo popped another pill into Su Xiaolian's mouth. In the blink of an eye, their bodies were so stiff that they could not move. No matter how much strength they used, their bodies were like rocks. Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and casually kicked the both of them to a spot not too far away. Chapter 1613. Madam Qing Luo, you might as well kill this kind of person. Why should we spare her life? So this whatever array, this barrier, is the medium which the both of them buried. If we don't kill them, how are we going to appease our anger? The students were filled with righteous indignation, all of them couldn't wait to tear out Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian's tendons and bones. It was these two people who had caused them to fall into this life and death predicament. Death, to them, is a release. Yiqing Luo sneered, I believe that Master Gue Wu and the headquarters will help us to settle the both of them. The students' clamoring voices stopped. They instantly understood Yiqing Luo's plan. Indeed, if these two sluts died so quickly, wouldn't it be a release for them? If this matter were to be blown to the headquarters, in order to give an explanation to the various academies and large clans, they would definitely use all methods to find out the whereabouts of the dark forces from Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian. These two people's clans. They would definitely be destroyed. This was the biggest punishment for these two sluts. Yiqing Luo used the same method to kick Ji Zhangtian and Lan Ling Nuo to Zi Qianqian's side. The reason was, in case someone created trouble later on. As for the other Celestial Phoenix Academy students, their boss was gone. Other than submitting to Yiqing Luo, they had no other choice. Moreover, they heard that Ji Zhangtian had killed a few brothers from his mercenary group for Lan Ling Nuo. How would Celestial Phoenix Academy students have the mood to sell their lives for Ji Zhangtian? Everyone, including those from the dark forces, had not seen it at all. At the same time when Yiqing Luo fed the pills into their mouths, her fingertips flicked out an extremely small crystal-clear pearl. That pearl fell into the sand on the ground and in a blink of an eye, it was swept away by the sand. In a blink of an eye, the ground was already empty. Yiqing Luo returned to the front of the crowd as her vision looked towards Yiqing Qian who was standing in front. Your expression tells me that the two arrays are about to merge into one. Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with viciousness, that's right. But, I've always liked to watch the prey's final struggle, especially. You personally put on a show. What a coincidence, I also like to see the drama of the complacent prey dying a tragic death in despair when their plans fail. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Yiqing Qian's expression sunk as she looked viciously at the dark ones beside her. All of you, play with these fellows who don't know what's good for you and enjoy the feeling of prey struggling. Yes. Guardian Who? The dark ones responded in unison. Following that, the Dark One's aura suddenly burst forth as they took the initiative to attack. In this area of the curse array, their dark yin qi could be supplied continuously. Torturing these students was a piece of cake. Devil class students, release your weights. Yiqing Luo's vision swept across the crowd, and the weighted soft armor on you, remove it. Everyone was taken aback. They seemed to have just realized that they were also wearing soft armors that weighed about 70 kilograms. After a few days of hard and tiring training, they had almost forgotten about this matter. When Yiqing Luo mentioned it, all the students used their fastest speed to remove the weighted soft armor. The moment the weight-bearing soft armor landed on the ground, they could clearly feel the changes brought about by their own bodies. Light as a feather. Chapter 1614. Bam bam bam. Bam bam bam. While the students from various academies were shocked at how light they were as feathers, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground. The students looked towards the source of the sound. Then they saw Devil Class's group of perverts undoing a strap on their wrists, undoing the straps on their waists and legs. That strap landed on the ground. It was even louder than the soft armors. This Wasn't this a weight belt? This group of perverts. Not only were they wearing the specially made soft armors by ghost martial artists, their 4 limbs were also tied with weight belts. Did they need to be so perverted? The students from various academies were so shocked that their hearts were trembling. Some students didn't believe it. They specially went up to pick up the weight belt. But that weight pressed that student's veins were popping out before he could barely lift it up. A loud dong sound was heard. The student really couldn't lift it up properly, as the weight belt in his hands fell onto the ground. In the students' minds, there were only 3 words existing: true, change, abnormal. What are you all still standing there for? Waiting for death? Yiqing Luo's cold voice rang sharply. The students from various academies heard a buzzing sound in their ears. Their consciousness suddenly became clear. Only to see in front of them, the dark ones covering the sky and earth, attacking in groups. Ah! The students cried out in shock. They had not regained their senses in time. Just as the students were trying to avoid the dark one's attack. Suddenly, a red glow appeared in front of them, as swift as thunder, as fast as lightning. As though it was weaving an impenetrable large net in front of the students. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The dark one's attack fell into that large net. In a split second, profound light surged. That large net was imposing, filled with murderous intent. The dark ones who were the first to rush up. At the moment when that profound chi struck, they were sent flying. This strike gave those students a chance to avoid the danger. The students' figures immediately evaded, as they looked towards the front. They were all astonished. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. They saw that slender and elegant figure, wielding the glower flame fan, gently sweeping it. That large net which blocked the dark one's attack, at this moment, suddenly dispersed. They transformed into strands of sharp profound energy that directly sealed off the attacks of the dark ones. Just now, it was Yiqing Luo who saved them. It was Yiqing Luo's attack which gave them a chance to catch a breather. Then, all the students saw, the woman whom they had never been able to truly trust, the woman whom they were unwilling to submit to. He walked among the hundreds of dark ones with extreme ease. The devouring flame fan in her hand. It was like the sharpest blade in the world. Wherever it went, blood spurted out. One by one, the dark ones fell to the ground. Yiqing Luo's actions were still continuing. Her footwork was so strange that the dark ones could not touch her at all. Wherever the glowing flame fan waved, the dark ones could not dodge at all. 10 corpses of the dark ones fell to the ground, 20 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 30 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 40, this. Was Yiqing Luo's real ability. As expected of the people supported by those perverts. There's no such thing as the most perverted, only more perverted. Those 1,500 over students finally understood why Yiqing Luo only asked them to split into groups to harass the dark forces. Like Yiqing Luo's ability. She alone could take down these hundreds of dark forces people. This Yiqing Luo. Absolutely not just Earth profound realm cultivators. Chapter 16:15. That majestic grandeur. That aura which was above the 9 heavens. How could ordinary cultivators possibly possess it? The various academies' students were filled with a surge of confidence. At this moment, no one had any complaints as they started to resist against the attacking positions which Yiqing Luo had set. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo who was wandering among the dark ones saw that everyone had already made their move. His figure flashed and disappeared into the shadows of the students. Ants could swallow an elephant. Although this group of students' abilities were not comparable to the dark forces. But according to her instructions, they suppressed the number of people. This would be able to delay the Dark Ones for some time and ensure that those students would not get hurt. This batch of Dark Ones was as she had expected. As compared to the Dark Ones whom she had met previously, their abilities were much more powerful. This batch should be those who were about to become protectors, but were still 1 or 2 steps away from becoming protectors. She had circled the area just now. It looked so effortless. In actual fact, only she knew how strenuous it was. At this critical juncture, she had to bring out a convincing ability. Using her own ability to conquer the various academy students. Otherwise those academies who were unresigned, once they threw a little tantrum. Today, they would definitely die in the hands of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo was in the middle as she spoke in a low voice. Shadow, immediately search for the position of the array core. I've already arranged for a helper to help you in secret. The other brothers, search for the person who cast the curse. Devil class's students split up. Yiqing Luo's sharp vision focused on the direction of the Dark Ones. There were 300 over people who charged forward to attack. There were still 100 over people standing behind Yiqing Qian. As though they were watching a show. Those 100 over Dark Ones were not standing in an orderly manner. Instead, they were scattered here and there. The more it was like this, the more certain Yiqing Luo was. The elder who cast the curse was definitely near those Dark Ones. The moment when Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared, Yiqing Qian acutely sensed it. Her vision had been following Yiqing Luo closely, just in case anything happened. On Yiqing Luo's body, she had already seen too many accidents. Yiqing Luo's luck was simply too heaven-defying. Yiqing Qian no longer dared to bet on this 1 in 10,000 chance of Yiqing Luo turning the tables. Yiqing Qian was on high alert as she suppressed her voice and warned the dark man beside her, stay alert and sense the surroundings. Hey, my big sister, where's your vigilance? Just as Yiqing Qian's words landed, a sweet laughter entered Yiqing Qian's ears. This voice was like a huge bell, falling heavily into Yiqing Qian's ears. Yiqing Qian turned her head around in shock. She saw Yiqing Luo's repulsive face appearing right in front of her eyes. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian bellowed in rage as she turned her hand to attack Yiqing Luo's direction. But Yiqing Luo agilely evaded and raised her leg to kick Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian's body flew backwards. She followed closely and stepped on Yiqing Qian's chest with one foot. You are despicable. Yiqing Qian knew that Yiqing Luo's speed was fast. But they had not expected Yiqing Luo's speed to be so fast that they didn't even have a chance to breathe. Yiqing Qian spat out a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale and she almost crushed her gums. I'm just catching them off guard. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she increased the strength on her leg. She moved swiftly among the few hundred Dark Ones and killed close to 50 of them. What she relied on was catching them off guard. And to hit Yiqing Qian. It really couldn't be said to be catching them off guard. It could only be said. Chapter 16:16. She thought that she was well prepared. She thought that no matter how much ability Yiqing Luo had, there was absolutely no way to escape from the array. She thought that she would be able to see with her own eyes those who had mocked and insulted her go to hell. She thought. But all of them thought. But they had neglected Yiqing Luo's current ability. Earth Profound grade and above ability. The difference of a single grade was like the distance between heaven and earth. Not to mention that she had already stepped into the Sky Profound grade and was known as the Sky Profound Overlord. Dealing with Yiqing Qian was simply too easy. But this indeed couldn't be said that Yiqing Qian had no brains. After all, who would have thought that? Yiqing Luo was merely in the Earth Profound grade 4th grade before she entered the Blazing Flame lair. In a short span of 5 days, she became a sky-profound overlord. Looking at the entire Nirvana realm. No one has been able to do that. You. Yi Qingqian realized this as her eyes suddenly widened. To be able to move freely among the 300 overdark men. To be able to kill close to 50 of them alone. To be able to silently avoid the remaining 100 overdark men's senses, get close to her and attack her. Such a powerful force. Such an irresistible force. Yi Qingluo was a sky-profound overlord. Other than this reason, Yi Qingqian couldn't think of a second reason. Yi Qingluo's lips curled as she smiled sweetly. From the corner of her eyes, she saw those dark men rushing up to save Yi Qingqian. The smile on her lips grew. Her fingertips turned and the glower flame fan was like a dancing flame as it flipped in her palm. Bursts of valiant force could uproot the mountains and rivers. The moment the glower flame fan appeared, it set off layers of waves and everything on the ground had turned into a whirlpool. Those dark men had yet to get close. Under this powerful whirlwind, they were sent flying. Yi Qingqian was the closest. She could clearly feel the terrifying aura surging from Yi Qingluo. That valiant aura seemed to be able to absorb everything in the world. Yi Qingqian's heart suddenly stopped. The profound yin qi which was circulating recklessly in her eyes flowed chaotically. The aura of death. She felt it. The aura which was getting closer and closer to her. Seeing the despair in Yi Qingqian's eyes, a trace of disdain flashed past Yi Qingluo's eyes. He gave up struggling just like that. Her good elder sister was someone who could grab onto life-saving straws time and time again when she was about to be destroyed. Make use of your advantages and live on tenaciously like weeds. How could they give up just like that? How could he be willing to die like this? What was Yi Qingqian trying to do? Yi Qingluo's half-squinted eyes were suffused with a glimmer of rippling luster. Retracting her peripheral vision, she leaned forward slightly. That slender body happened to block Yi Qingqian's line of sight. What are you going to do? Yi Qingqian's face turned pale as she looked at Yi Qingluo who was closing in on her, the courage in her heart turned into fear. Her delicate body was trembling slightly, and her face was pale. No matter how one looked at it, it would make one feel pity for her. Yi Qingluo chuckled softly, as her charming eyes were flowing with luster, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Elder sister, since we are going to die in this place, I naturally have to bring you along to hell. Her voice was a little chilly, but there was also a hint of playfulness in it. When Yi Qingqian heard this, she felt a chill down her spine. Before Yi Qingqian could react, suddenly, she heard a shrill scream coming from not too far away. Following that, numerous black-robed men, like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, flew out in all directions. Chapter 16-17. She suddenly regained her senses. She immediately shouted towards the dark ones who were still entangled with the 1,000 over students. Yi Qingqian knew that Yi Qingluo was sinister and cunning. She also knew that Yi Qingluo was full of tricks. She was on guard. But she had not expected that Yi Qingluo could instigate the students from various academies to listen to her instructions, and even discovered the secret of the array in the shortest time possible. Yi Qingqian's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Yi Qingluo quietly got close to her and attacked her. It was to attract her attention, to attract the attention of those 100 over dark ones who had yet to participate in the battle. Yi Qingluo was pretending to deal with her. It was to create an opportunity for Devil Class's group to find the person who cast the curse. Yi Qingluo succeeded. Successfully created an opportunity for Devil Class. And also allowed Devil Class to successfully find those elders who were hidden behind the crowd and continuously casting the curse. A total of 10 elders. They lined up in a formation. And beside each elder, stood two black-robed dark ones who were obviously of a higher level. On the black robes, there was an eye-catching badge. Devil class students recognized that it was the symbol of a guardian. The Devil class students used their fastest speed to kill all the dark ones around them. Following that, they went near the elders. Momentarily, the guardians and Devil class students were entangled in a battle. Yiqing Qian looked at the disrupted formation in front of her. Looking at the numerous Devil class students, fiercely attacking the direction of the elders. Her face turned paler and paler. An indescribable restlessness surged in his chest and spread throughout his body. Yiqing Qian herself didn't notice it. At this moment, circles of black profound qi were constantly surging in her eyes, forming a vortex. This scene, Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, quickly loosened the restraint on Yiqing Qian, and retreated a few steps. Yiqing Luo was very clear. The profound yin qi in Yiqing Qian's body, under her irritable mood, started to stir. Shangguan Liuli had mentioned this before. What the dark forces needed was not only souls and resentment. The same logic could be used. What the dark forces needed was not only resentment and all kinds of negative energy emotions. For example, anger and hatred, as well as jealousy. This kind of emotion was the easiest to cause the corrosion of the profound yin qi. After Yiqing Qian joined the dark forces, she accepted the transformation of the profound yin qi. He was also often intimate with the wolf saint technique, whose body contained countless mysterious yin qi. Naturally, it would also absorb the profound yin qi from the wolf saint dharma. Yiqing Luo was the clearest about the consequences of being corroded by the profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo's vision swept past the students who were battling on both sides. The devil class gradually closed in on the 10 elders. The students of the various academies also used their greatest strength to block the hundreds of dark ones. Everyone was working hard to survive. She absolutely could not let Yiqing Qian spoil her plans. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her vision returned to Yiqing Qian, who was completely covered by the profound yin qi. She flipped her palm and flicked out a pill. That pill had yet to be flicked into Yiqing Qian's mouth. Yiqing Qian had already reflexively raised her palm, striking that pill to the side. Yiqing Luo, this move of yours can deal with those two trash, but to deal with me, it's not that easy. Yiqing Qian retreated several steps back the moment she was released by Yiqing Luo. Her eyes were filled with viciousness, and her eyes were filled with profound yin qi. Chapter 16-18. Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly as she looked at the woman who had turned sinister and terrifying. I want you to die in a comfortable way, but you have to choose this violent way of dying. She shook her head helplessly. After all, you were once my elder sister. As your sister, I can only try my best to satisfy you. Ha ha ha. Don't just talk big. Yiqing Qian's voice was hoarse as her body gradually floated into the air. The current Yiqing Qian was exceptionally terrifying. That wisp of profound yin qi had already seeped out from Yiqing Qian's eyes. The black qi had encircled Yiqing Qian entirely. She opened her arms. The endless profound yin qi from the surroundings gathered towards her. What is that? Monster! Monster! All the students from the various academies looked at Yiqing Qian, who was floating in the sky, in terror. One by one, they cried out in terror. And this moment of panic gave the dark agents a chance to attack. Momentarily, the students from the various academies were tangled in a fight and the dark agents broke a gap. The students who were charging at the front were immediately sent flying by the dark agents. Ah! Oh no! Oh no! Quickly defend, we can't let them pass. Devil class, be careful, the dark forces are about to pass. The entire scene started to descend into chaos. After the dark agents broke through the students' encirclement, the first thing they did was to rush towards the direction of the Devil class. They wanted to prevent the Devil class students from getting near the elders. Those elders were the key to completing their mission today. Steady! A loud shout was heard by the students. That voice was sonorous and powerful, firm and full of tension. You only need to take care of the mission that I have given you. Leave the rest to me. That voice had a convincing magical power. It easily soothed the fear and uneasiness in the students' hearts. They saw that young lady dressed in green and white uniform, standing in front of the dark agents in a flash. Facing those dark agents who were swarming over, she didn't show any signs of retreating. Her expression was calm and indifferent. A pair of bewitching eyes flashed with a resolute radiance as she stared ahead. Profound chi surged, intense like fire. The mysterious light that the glowing flame fan shot out was suffused with a devilish red glow. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward the dark ones. That Xian Qi was invincible. In everyone's eyes, Yiqing Luo was like a death god who had descended into the world, enough to make everything around her submit to her power. Under that powerful aura, the dark ones felt their chests tighten. Some of the weaker dark ones even coughed up a mouthful of blood. The dark ones in the front row were sent flying. The dark ones immediately gave up on the idea of charging forward. Instead, he tried to break Yiqing Luo's imposing manner from the side. However, they did not have the time to move a single step. The mystical qi, which was like the void, had already landed on the bodies of the dark ones. The entire fiery lair was in a state of intense turmoil. Sky. Sky profound supremacy. The dark ones could clearly feel that powerful force. The girl in front of him was only 14 or 15 years old. How could it be a sky profound supreme martial artist? As for those students, after hearing the exclamations of the dark ones, they were shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at Yiqing Luo, whose imposing manner had skyrocketed. Sky profound supreme martial artist. Yiqing Luo was actually a strong sky profound supreme martial artist. Just how deep had she hidden herself? Yiqing Luo, your opponent is me. Behind her, a sinister voice was heard. Chapter 16-19. Bam! A loud sound. That palm wind, which was filled with profound yin qi, was blocked by the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo flipped over and lifted her leg to kick Yiqing Qian's abdomen. Yiqing Qian's body flew out like a broken kite. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, her icy cold gaze without any emotion. Opponent, you're not qualified. Every word was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yiqing Qian's ears. Anger, at this moment, was like a volcano eruption, exploding in her mind. The black qi in Yiqing Qian's eyes became thicker and thicker. The profound yin qi, which was constantly released, was like vines, closing in on Yiqing Qian's body. Yiqing Qian's arrogance continued to rise. Ah! Yiqing Qian let out a roar. Endless profound yin qi exploded from her body. Damn it! Yiqing Qian was completely eroded by the profound yin qi. If it was Yiqing Qian, she had 100% confidence she could torture her. But, if it was profound yin qi, and under the condition that the array had not been destroyed, it could continue to absorb the surrounding profound yin qi, and keep getting stronger. Perhaps, Yiqing Qian was hesitating. Suddenly, a gust of wind attacked from the right. That profound qi carried the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers, like a raging wave. Who is it? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. The moment that gust of wind attacked, her figure suddenly flashed, and disappeared into the air. Immediately, a red feather fan appeared out of thin air, sweeping through the air with a piercing sound. Like a rotating spiral knife, it flew towards the direction of the gust of wind. Ding! The sound of weapons colliding, the glower flame fan's attack was disintegrated. The glower flame fan, which had lost the support of profound chi, instantly fell down from the air. A fair little hand suddenly appeared and caught that feather fan steadily. Yiqing Luo did not know when, but she was only 10 steps away from that person who suddenly appeared. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes, and her gaze fell onto that person. Wolf Saint Law, looks like my elder sister is extremely important to you. The person in front of him wasn't anyone else but Yiqing Qian's female head in the dark forces, Wolf Saint Law. Wolf Saint Technique's malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. This Yiqing Luo, it had only been a month since they last met. He had actually stepped into the profound sky realm. This girl's talent was truly too terrifying. If he allowed her to continue to grow, it would definitely be a huge hindrance to the dark forces. Wolf Saint Technique narrowed his sinister eyes as he looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with dense murderous intent. Yiqing Luo naturally sensed that murderous intent. She snorted softly, a hint of mockery appearing in the depths of her eyes. I heard that Wolf Saint Technique's Wolf Saint Force has already been completely destroyed, but Wolf Saint Technique still has the heart to come here to save Big Sister. This deep sense of righteousness really moves me. Hearing Yiqing Luo mention about Wolf Saint's forces which had already been annihilated, the killing intent in Wolf Saint Law's eyes intensified. The Wolf Saint Force had cost him many years of blood and sweat. However, they were annihilated by that kid from the Imperial Palace. Moreover, they were completely annihilated. There was no room for him to make a comeback at all. If his lord were to awaken at this moment, if his lord knew about this matter, his life would probably be hard to keep. And the reason why the Imperial Palace annihilated Wolf Saint Force, everything was because of this young lady in front of him. She still had the cheek to mention Wolf Saint Force. Chapter 1620. Yiqing Luo. I want you to die. I want you to die. Just at this moment, Yiqing Qian, who was still absorbing the profound yin qi, suddenly let out a deafening roar. The black qi surrounding her was getting thicker and thicker. Her black hair, which was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, floated behind her in a horrifying manner. Wolf Saint Art, who was in the midst of attacking, heard that voice. He abruptly stopped his attack. He looked towards Yiqing Qian. The moment he sensed Yiqing Qian being engulfed by the profound yin qi, his expression changed. He speedily rushed towards Yiqing Qian's direction, forcefully pulling the raging Yiqing Qian into his arms. That profound yin qi, when it came into contact with Wolf Saint Art, dissipated. Yiqing Qian, who was still struggling, went limp and fainted in Wolf Saint Art's arms. Wolf Saint Art's expression was gloomy, as he looked at Yiqing Luo with a biting cold murderous intent. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, "Come out." His voice had just ended when black-robed men appeared one after another. It was the people from the underworld again. Wave after wave, there were at least 130 over of them. The students from various academies, when they saw the medals on those black-robed men, their faces turned pale with fright. These 130 over people from the dark forces. He was not an ordinary dark one, but guardians. 130 over dark guardians. Which meant that the battle power of 130 over people, compared to the more than 400 people he saw now, he was much stronger. They were even stronger. And they were not just a little bit stronger. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold when she saw these 100 over dark guardians. Wolf Saint Art's forces had already been destroyed. Wolf Saint Art could still order his subordinates. These 100 over-guardians, could it be? Indeed, Wolf Saint Art ordered coldly, protect the 10 elders. You must stop this group of prey from destroying the array. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. These 100 over-guardians were indeed not Wolf Saint Art's subordinates. But they were here to stop them from destroying the array. If Wolf Saint Art ordered these 100 over Dark Guardians to kill her, these Dark Guardians would definitely not take any action. But to stop them from destroying the array, which was equivalent to fighting against her. This Holy Wolf technique, even though he had lost the upper hand, he still wanted to come here and interfere. They wanted to use this opportunity to offer all of their souls to the King of Darkness. To beg for the King of Darkness's forgiveness. Yiqing Luo looked coldly at the Wolf Saint technique which was holding Yiqing Qian in his arms, looking at her with a sneer. Her charming eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze became increasingly cold. With me here, let's see how you plan to stop my brother from destroying the formation. Yiqing Luo's figure stretched out. The gourd flame fan in his hand stirred up waves of Xian Qi. They formed a dense net that sealed off the path of the Dark Protectors. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo stood alone in front of those guardians. The profound qi in his body rose sharply, one after another. Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan kicked away the dark person in front of him as the blue sparkling long sword in his hand flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Then, he flew up and joined the battle against the Dark Guardian. The strength of the two of them suppressed the Dark Guardian till there was no way for him to advance. On the side of Devil Class, they had already settled the Dark Ones and were attacking the Elder who had cast the curse. The Elder immediately threw out a smoke bomb. Following that, they all stood up and tried to escape. But they were stopped by Devil Class's students. They rushed up and slit their necks. Those whose necks were directly broken would be directly broken. Chapter 1621. Overestimating Yourself. Wolf Saint Dharma snorted coldly as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. Following that, he raised his palm and struck out with a palm strike. Devil Class students sensed the danger. They could only give up on chasing the remaining 6 elders and evaded. That palm strike seemed to have broken the void, shaking the heaven and earth. After it landed on the ground, it caused the entire flame nest to tremble. The ground, which had already turned into ruins, was like a spider web, with countless cracks densely packed together. A loud boom sound was heard. The ground cracked and gravel flew everywhere. Devil Class students evaded in a disheveled manner and some even fell into the cracks. Luckily Yiqing Luo had taught them that set of footwork, which allowed Devil Class students to avoid the danger. After the surrounding tremors had subsided, Devil Class students stabilized themselves. Those 6 elders had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Dharma. Following that, they sat down cross-legged and continued to cast their spells, activating the 2 formations forbidden spells once again. Devil Class students, go against the Dark Guardians. Yiqing Luo also noticed the movements over there. With the appearance of Wolf Saint Dharma, Devil Class students couldn't even think of getting close to those 6 elders. With the death of 4 elders, the formation's speed had slowed down by half. The person who was guarding the elders was Wolf Saint Dharma. Devil Class students' current ability was not enough to go against Wolf Saint Dharma. Why not use these 130 over Dark Guardians for this bunch of youngsters to practice on? Hearing Yiqing Luo's command, those Devil Class students who had adjusted their formation and were preparing to attack Wolf Saint Dharma, almost reflexively moved towards Yiqing Luo's direction. 50 over people attacked those 130 Dark Guardians in an orderly manner. After Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan got away, then they all attacked towards Wolf Saint Dharma's direction. This coordination Simply amazing. All the students from various academies were sighing in their hearts. The performance of Devil Class's students had completely refreshed their understanding of Devil Class. The heroic spirit in their hearts was ignited at this moment. One by one, they perked up their spirits and became more serious in dealing with this batch of dark guardians. Sky Profound First Grade Cultivator, dare to challenge this Saint Dharma. Wolf Saint Dharma sneered as he squinted his malicious eyes. No matter how fast Yi Qing Luo's advancement was. Even so, he was no match for him. The wolf's sacred beast tightened its grip around the woman in its arms and leaped into the air. The wind from his palm moved like 10,000 layers of wind and waves, directly attacking. Yi Qing Luo's expression was calm as she waved her glower flame fan and opened it abruptly, blocking that palm wind. The powerful profound qi transformed into a bewitching red glow, forming a beautiful cold lake in midair. In that instant, the air was ignited. A sizzling sound could be heard. Boom! The sound of the collision between the qi and the palm wind shook heaven and earth. Soon after, a greenish-white figure broke through the air from the force. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered on her shoulders. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more enchanting and moving. The gourd flame fan in her hand flickered with one complicated profound light after another. Her red lips curled into a smile. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost all its brilliance. There was only one person in the world that could be seen. Wolf Saint Technique, if you don't try, how would you know the final result? Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. The moment her words landed, the expression on her face suddenly turned solemn. Her footwork was displayed. She had already overtaken the direction of Wolf Saint Technique. Long Yun Zhan immediately coordinated with Yi Qing Luo's footwork from the other side. Chapter 1622. Wolf Saint Dharma was carrying Yi Qing Qian in his arms. Naturally, he was unable to exert his full strength. Facing Yi Qing Luo and Long Yun Zhan's encirclement, it was somewhat difficult to deal with. Yi Qing Luo and Long Yun Zhan's coordination was extremely tacit, totally not giving Wolf Saint Dharma any breathing space. The Dark Ones present, whether it was guardians or elders, were not from his Wolf Saint Dharma's forces. Wolf Saint Dharma was unable to hand the unconscious Yi Qing Qian over to the other guardians. Moreover, based on Yi Qing Luo's cunning character, if Wolf Saint Dharma released Yi Qing Qian, in the next moment, Yi Qing Qian would probably become Yi Qing Luo's bargaining chip to threaten Wolf Saint Dharma. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame lair had sunk into a chaotic battle. The stench of blood filled the skies. In the wooden shed, 4 instructors stood in front of the profound light mirror, staring at the image in the mirror. In the mirror, Ghost Doctor's calm voice was heard. "How is it? Have you found any traces of those students?" "No. No. We've searched the entire blazing flame lair, but not a single student is seen." Instructor Ren answered anxiously. "Not only did we use the profound light mirror to search the surroundings of the blazing flame lair, I've also flipped the entire place with those people from the headquarters, but there's no trace of those students." Instructor Li's face was gloomy. The few instructors were all sweating profusely. All of them had an anxious and uneasy expression. "Continue searching," Ghost Doctor said coldly. "Yes." The 4 instructors responded, and immediately assigned another 2 people to follow those people from the headquarters, to continue searching the blazing flame lair. Near the interior of the blazing flame lair, a black and white silhouette were moving forward swiftly. Ah woo, the students wouldn't disappear for no reason, could it be? Zhou Mo frowned, recalling the black aura he saw on the profound light mirror earlier. His frown grew even deeper. Ghost Marshall's eyes were filled with a cold glint. "Yes, it's an enchantment. It's indeed an enchantment." Zhou Mo narrowed his long phoenix eyes. But, who can under our eyelids, under the enchantment of those old fellows in the headquarters, can conjure an enchantment that even you can't detect? This point, no matter how Zhou Mo thought, he couldn't understand. Dark forces. Gue Wu spat out these 4 words. Zhou Mo's expression congealed slightly. Ever since the news of the dark forces infiltrating into Nirvana realm, because of Yi Qing Luo, everyone knew about it. Following that, the Imperial Palace kept on launching attacks against the dark forces, and even destroyed a Saint Technique powerhouse. After a pause, he continued, I'm afraid the dark forces are desperate. Send the news to the Imperial Palace. Gue Wu pondered for a moment before he suddenly spoke. Imperial Palace. Zhou Mo paused. You mean, as long as that girl is here, Di Zun will definitely come, Gue Wu said in a low voice. Zhou Mo pursed his thin lips and nodded. If Di Zun comes, the dark forces can indeed deal with them, but, can those students hold on until that girl is there? Gue Wu lightly said. Zhou Mo frowned as he looked at Gue Wu with a somewhat strange gaze. After a while, Zhou Mo came back to his senses. She's just a little girl with a little luck. Why do you have so much confidence in her? In his memories, Gue Wu had never trusted a person's strength so much. Even for himself. He was constantly questioning and doubting his own abilities. Chapter 1623. Inside the barrier. The students of the various academies had already succeeded in killing the Dark Ones. He then pounced forward to help the Devil class and the others to deal with the Dark Protectors. Because of this, Yan Xiaoyi and the others were able to extricate themselves and join Yi Qing Luo and the others in the battle, resisting against the Wolf Saint technique together. With a beauty in his arms, the Wolf Saint technique felt strained. In particular, Yi Qing Luo was extremely cunning, as she repeatedly attacked Yi Qing Qian. Now that Yi Qing Qian had fainted, she wouldn't be able to evade by herself. The Wolf Saint Law had to be very, very careful. Furthermore, after Yi Qing Luo's attack on Yi Qing Qian failed, she didn't stop. She once again passed through Langxing Fa's attack range and directly released her profound energy in the direction of the 6 elders who were protecting Langxing Fa. The 6 elders dodged in panic. Because of Yi Qing Luo's harassment, he was unable to continue casting the incantation. As a result, Wolf Saint Dharma had to deal with Long Yunzhan and the others' attacks, and to protect Yi Qing Qian from being hurt by Yi Qing Luo, and to protect those elders who had no battle ability. After a long time, the Wolf Saint technique was becoming more and more powerless. The situation began to change. The expression on Lang Xingfa's face grew increasingly gloomy. His actions became more and more ruthless. Every time they clashed, they would kill. But the group of students from Devil class were as slippery as loaches. He had no way of hurting them at all. On the contrary, there were several wounds on his body. When had the Wolf Saint technique ever suffered such humiliation? Langxing Fa's expression was extremely gloomy. That vicious gaze seemed to want to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. Yi Qing Luo, who saw Wolf Saint technique's expression, curled her lips into a smile. I say, Wolf Saint technique, put down the person in your arms. If you don't save him, you can totally oppress us little cultivators. Wolf Saint magic tightened his arms and pulled Yi Qing Qian into his embrace. She looked as though she was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would suddenly make a move on Yi Qing Qian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. TSK, this eldest sister of mine has racked her brains to get together with 2 generations of crown princes and ended up in such a miserable state. I didn't expect her to meet a man who treats her sincerely. How lucky she is. Her eyes were fixed on the expression on the Wolf Saint Dharma face. To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo was unable to understand. How could someone like Lang Xingfa be so infatuated with a woman? From Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of pouncing onto Yi Qingqian the moment they didn't get along with each other. Yi Qing really couldn't tell what kind of love this was. But, looking at Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of protecting Yi Qingqian, he would rather get injured than to protect her. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. What made Yi Qing Luo even more astonished was, when she mentioned the two crown princes. The expression on Lang Xingfa's face did not change in the slightest. Could it be that Yi Qingqian had already told Wolf Saint Technique about her, Ling Fenghua and Ling Fengying's matters? Because of this, when he heard about Yi Qingqian's old love, the Wolf Saint Technique didn't feel anything. No, that was also impossible. If it was Dmo Xian. If she were to be slightly intimate with any man, Dmo Xian's vinegar jar would be overturned. Even though Yi Qingqian had told Wolf Saint Fa about her past. But when it came to old love, shouldn't a man's true reaction be some disgust or displeasure? Only, Yi Qing Luo didn't have the chance to think deeply. The sole of her feet seemed to be prodded by something. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she regained her senses and lowered her eyelids. She saw the dust billowing on the ground beneath her feet, slowly protruding out a sharp little corner. That little corner would occasionally lean towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Chapter 1624. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She lifted her foot and forcefully stepped on the small corner. Then, he raised his eyes and stared at the Wolf Saint Technique, who was obviously struggling. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her figure flashed as she approached Long Yunzhan. Already found it? Long Yunzhan saw Yi Qing Luo's actions and immediately understood. Yi Qing Luo nodded, should be. You go, I'll be here. Long Yunzhan glanced at her indifferently, gripped the long sword in his hand, and charged at the Wolf Saint Technique. Long Yunzhan's sudden burst of powerful profound energy immediately attracted the Wolf's sacred technique's attention. You! When Wolf Saint Technique saw who it was, the expression on his face congealed as his malicious gaze shot towards Yi Qing Luo, who was not too far away. However, Long Yunzhan didn't fully understand the meaning behind the Wolf Saint Technique's eyes. He had to attract all the attention of the sacred wolf technique. Immediately, the thick qi surged again. His attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Brat! Wolf Saint Law dodged a few moves, staring at Long Yunzhan's cold eyes, his face slightly darkening. This fierce shout did not make Long Yunzhan stop his attacks. On the contrary, Long Yunzhan's attacks increased. The Wolf Saint Law couldn't take it anymore and raised his palm to attack Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan was focused on attracting the Wolf Saint Technique's attention, so he didn't pay attention to anything else. But Yi Qing Luo saw it clearly. Wolf Saint Fa seemed to know Long Yunzhan. Furthermore, Wolf Saint Fa had called him a brat. Yi Qing Luo could tell that the Wolf Saint Technique wasn't looking down on Long Yunzhan, but it was similar to how a senior addressed a junior. Saint Wolf Art, Long Yunzhan. No matter how he looked at it, these two people didn't look like they had any connections. Could it be, was that just her imagination? That sharp little horn beneath her feet pushed against Yi Qing Luo's feet a few more times. Yi Qing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her heart as her footsteps flashed. Her petite figure quietly disappeared into the air. Not a single person noticed it. Just a moment later, Yi Qing Luo had already followed that sharp little horn beneath her feet, as she appeared several tens of meters away from the battlefield. The surrounding trees had already fallen to the ground under the attack of the profound qi. It also happened to cover the petite figure of Mo Yuing. Yi Qing Luo walked over quickly and immediately bent down, hiding her figure behind the fallen trees. Shadow, have you found the array core? Mo Yuing looked at her expressionlessly. Rely on it. Raising his hand, he pointed to the side of Yi Qing Luo, that protruding little horn. The small horn was praised, and it arched its head on the ground. Then, an oval-shaped object crawled out from the ground. That little thing was round and bulging. After rolling on the ground, it landed at Mo Ying's feet. That thing looked like an egg. It was about the size of 2 palms. When the egg reached Mo Ying's feet, suddenly, a small thing popped out. Before Yiqing Luo could take a closer look. On the other side of the egg, there was another thing. Then, another one popped out. After a while, another one came out of the jar. 4 slender and long things were waving about. Not long after, his form was revealed. That was, hands and feet. An egg gave birth to hands and feet. That's right, it's me, the omnipotent strange beast. A devilish voice like a robot was heard from that egg. 2 small hands grabbed Mo Ying's trousers, extremely proud. Little sister and I have found the array core, it's right here. This was a strange beast. The original body. Yiqing Luo stared at this lump of egg-like creature. Recalling that not long ago, deep in the stream, she saw that huge bloody mouth. Chapter 1625. Destroy the array I. The array is about to merge into one. Mo Ying stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking as she spoke mechanically. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the strange beast's body. She immediately looked towards the direction of Mo Ying's finger. She saw a ball of flickering flame burning in mid-air where Mo Ying was standing. If one didn't look carefully, it was impossible to detect this flame. And after looking at this flame, Yiqing Luo was able to follow the flame and clearly see the array which was derived from the array I. The range of the array enveloped the entire area of the fire nest. The array was extremely strange and complicated. Yiqing Luo couldn't see through it with her naked eyes. And every single line of this array was filled with dense profound yin qi. Only, this profound yin qi didn't overlap the entire area. But it was concentrated to 1/3 of the line. This was the soul assimilation array. An array which absorbed human souls. It was an extremely vicious type of dark incantation. Yiqing Luo finally understood. Why did the dark forces need to take the extra step to set up an array which provided an endless supply of profound yin qi? This was because the soul assimilation formation required an endless supply of mystical yin qi to form. Yiqing Luo saw it. These lines of the array were burning with a flickering flame at the 4 corners of this area. This flame, it was the array I. As long as the flame wasn't extinguished, the array wouldn't be broken. 4 array I flames. As long as they got rid of these 4 array I's, this soul assimilation array would be completely destroyed. And they would have enough time to break through the dark force's power and leave this place alive. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. She raised her palm and struck towards the flame. Lass! Stop! She suddenly heard Old Man Song's berating voice. Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly stopped in midair. Old Man Song, what are you doing? Yiqing Luo restrained her profound qi. This kind of stopping halfway, it's easy to go into qi deviation. If you hit this palm, then you will really go into qi deviation. Old Man Song heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yiqing Luo stopping in time. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. What do you mean? This is a dark curse. If you use your profound energy to directly destroy it, not only will you not be able to destroy the flames in the eye of the formation, it will also easily cause a backlash from the power of darkness. Old Man Song solemnly replied. Yiqing Luo's hand immediately withdrew. Backlash. This array, there was actually a backlash. Then how should I destroy this array? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. The blood of the one who cast the curse. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression turned ugly. I'm already here and you're asking me to take the blood of the person who cast the curse. If she were to return to the Wolf Saint technique side and forcefully attack the elder, she would be able to obtain the elder's blood. The Wolf Saint technique would definitely notice something amiss. By then, she might not have the chance to get close to the eye of the array. Don't you still have the help of that mutant beast? Yes. Let the strange beast pour the Dark Elder's blood onto the formation I flame and that will do. Yiqing Luo snapped her fingers as her brows were filled with a smile. Mutated beasts could transform into anything in the world. They were using the mutated beasts to transport the blood of the Dark Elder. It was foolproof. Qing Luo, what idea have you thought of? A stiff and tense voice rang in her ears. Mo Yuing tilted her head, her lowly face was in a daze, without any expression. Chapter 1626. Yiqing Luo speedily retreated from this place. Her footwork was like a phantom as she speedily returned to the battlefield. In just a short period of time, Long Yunzhan was still entangled with Wolf Saint technique. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were still harassing him. But it caused Wolf Saint technique to keep on retreating. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her footsteps moved. Her figure appeared behind Wolf Saint technique once again. The 6 elders who were continuously casting their spells, on seeing Yiqing Luo who was silently approaching them, their expressions all changed. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. Following that, one of the elders stopped casting his spells, stood up and took out a smoke bomb from his bosom. Before he could kick out, Yiqing Luo's lips curled coldly as she raised her leg and kicked the smoke bomb in the elder's hand out. The smoke grenade drew a perfect arc in the air. Finally, under the rebound of the barrier, it landed on the ground not too far away. Following that, Yiqing Luo had already stuck close to him. Her fingers moved and the glower flame fan flipped in her palm. A sharp dagger shot out from the fan handle, sticking on that elder's neck. The elder's face turned steely green. Before he could say a word, he stopped breathing. After taking an elder's blood, Wolf Saint technique had already reacted and a burst of dense profound qi directly shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo had already taken the elder's blood and threw the elder's corpse towards the profound qi. Her figure swiftly retreated, only to see that corpse, under the impact of the profound qi. It suddenly split into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere as the air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Yiqing Luo quietly placed the blood in her hand by her feet. The strange beast which had transformed into the ground, silently sent that blood to Mo Yuying's side. The elder's blood poured onto the array's flame. That flame was suddenly extinguished. The surrounding array, as well as the lingering profound yin qi, became extremely messy. There were only 3 array core flames left. Yiqing Luo's gaze looked towards the elders who were fleeing in all directions not too far away. Her eyes turned slightly cold. Qing Luo, be careful. She suddenly heard Long Yunzhan scream. Yiqing Luo's body reflexively dodged to the side. Not knowing when, Wolf Saint technique had broken through Long Yunzhan and the others' encirclement, charging right in front of Yiqing Luo. I've underestimated you. The Wolf Saint Law's expression was extremely gloomy. His sinister eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she revealed a sweet smile. Aren't you surprised? This was obviously a provocation to the Wolf Saint technique. Wolf Saint Law could never have imagined it. Yiqing Luo was actually able to find the array core under such circumstances. Furthermore, he had destroyed the eye of the formation. It was a way to destroy the dark spell. It was impossible for ordinary people to know about it. It was impossible for anyone in the entire Nirvana realm to know about this. How could Yi Qing Luo possibly know? The reason why Yi Qing Qian had such great confidence in the success of this array was because of this. The dark forces did not go out of their way to protect the formation core. That was because the formation eye of this darkness formation could not be destroyed at all. Even if Yi Qing Luo really found the array core, forcefully destroy it with profound qi, he would be devoured by the dark energy at any moment. But Yi Qing Luo had successfully destroyed a formation eye. As a result, the formation of the soul assimilation formation was obstructed once more. Impossible. How could Yi Qing Luo possibly know the method to destroy the dark array? Could it be there was someone from the lower realm beside Yi Qing Luo, helping her? Little slut. I'm going to kill you. Wolf Saint Lo realized the seriousness of the matter. If he continued to underestimate the enemy. Chapter 1627. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly, curving into a sinister arc. Slender jade-like hands, holding the glower flame fan, shot out a bewitching red glow. Profound light surged, encircling the glower flame fan surroundings. Her footwork continued to change her position. Only an afterimage could be seen with the naked eye. The speed was so fast that it was impossible to capture. The profound qi in her hands was fluctuating, like an excited bewitching flame, sparkling with a dazzling brilliance. Wolf Saint Dharma sensed the power of that burst of energy. The expression on his face suddenly turned black. A ball of profound yin qi was released from his surroundings. Wolf Saint Dharma's figure swiftly retreated several steps. This retreat, Wolf Saint Dharma regretted. The profound qi shot out by Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan was not targeted at him. But, at the moment when Wolf Saint Dharma retreated straight to the side, looking for a safe direction, to continue to cast the spell, to maintain the spirit assimilating array, towards the elder. Only to see that bewitching red glow, in mid-air, split open a series of red electric current ripples, as though it was tearing out a crack. Bam! The profound light landed among the elders, directly hitting one of the elders' head. Instantly, that elder did not even have the chance to make a sound, as he fell limply onto the ground. Another boom sound was heard. The residual force of the burst of the mystic light sent a few elders flying away. The elders cried out miserably. Yi Qing Luo. Wolf Saint Dharma's expression was gloomy, as he mustered up his energy. Compared to the last time when they were besieging each other in the underground room. And now, it was not even a month's time. The young lady who was like an ant in his hands then. In such a short period of time, she had already grown to such a stage. Originally he thought, close to these dark people, the Dark Protectors would definitely be able to complete today's plan. He had not expected, Yi Qing Luo really had the heaven-defying ability. If you don't let go of the person in your arms, these elders. Yi Qing Luo's sly brows were peerless. She looked meaningfully at Yi Qing Qian who was in Wolf Saint Dharma's arms. Her curved brows revealed an obvious ridicule. At the same time, the blood of that elder who had his head exploded. Under the silent transportation of the mutant beast, Wang Chong and the others were also silently transported. They arrived at the second fiery array core. Mo Yuing who had an extremely low sense of existence. On top of that, there was a mutated beast that could transform into anything in the world. Such a combination. It was too easy to do this kind of sneaky thing. When the second flame incantation was extinguished by the elder's blood, the area that was surrounded by the formation suddenly caved in a little. The soul assimilating array that he had painstakingly linked up with the soul assimilating array also broke in an instant. The expressions of the remaining four elders changed drastically. Holy Wolf technique, we can't extinguish the flame formation eye anymore. Otherwise. Otherwise, we won't be able to complete the soul-absorbing array even if we work until tomorrow. There were still 2 fiery formation cores left. It was the final support of the soul assimilation array. Once another fire formation I was destroyed, the soul assimilating array would be completely destroyed. Especially since there were only 4 elders left who could cast the curse. This was the first time the Wolf Saint technique had ever felt a sense of predicament. His sinister eyes swept across the dark protectors and dark ones. The ground was littered with corpses, most of which belonged to the dark ones. And the casualties of the students of the various academies were actually less than half of the dark ones. The dark guardians were surrounded by the students. They had no time to rush over to protect those elders. Wolf Saint technique looked at Yi Qing Qian who was in his arms, as the rage in his heart burned. He wanted to let go of Yi Qing Qian. Chapter 1628. The elder's terrified voice rang beside his ears. In front of him was Yi Qing Luo's complacent smile. The anger in Wolf Saint Magic's heart burned even more vigorously. However, the current situation had been completely reversed. The various academies had completely gained the upper hand. Obviously. Just a little bit more, they would be able to successfully set up the spirit assimilation array. Offering these 1,000 over young clean souls to the Lord. The Lord's seal would then be lifted in advance. But, Wolf Saint Magic's sharp gaze stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo's direction. His fingers clenched tightly. The dark forces had already emptied their minds and spent a huge amount of manpower and resources for this plan. The spirit assimilation array must succeed. These students' souls must all become the Lord's food. Looks like they could only use their trump card in advance. Thinking of this, Wolf Saint Magic hugged the lady in his arms tightly as he speedily took a step back. Under the situation where no one could see. His sharp nails scratched his palm. A drop of blood slowly formed. Following that, it dripped onto the ground. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her vision locked onto Wolf Saint Magic's actions. Seeing him retreat from the battlefield. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled slightly as she raised her guard. After waiting for some time, Wolf Saint Magic stood outside the crowd, not knowing what he was waiting for. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept past those elders whose faces were filled with fear as they looked around. Inside the metal, there was a reminder. She slowly walked towards the direction of the elders. Wolf Saint Magic's action was absolutely not because he was out of stamina and wanted to delay time to recuperate. But there was a bigger conspiracy. Rather than waiting on the same spot uneasily, why not take the initiative to attack? Yi Qing Luo had never planned to passively accept unknown danger. She liked to be in control and turn passivity into initiative. Silently, Yi Qing Luo had already stuck close to an elder's side. That elder raised his finger in terror as he muttered a strange incantation. His footsteps immediately moved towards Wolf Saint Magic's direction to seek protection. But the elder's incantation was not in time. Yi Qing Luo's fist had already landed on the elder's face. He had successfully shut up the elder's muttering incantation. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision had always been paying attention to the direction of the Wolf Saint technique. Seeing that Wolf Saint Dharma was still standing in the same spot, looking down at Yi Qing Qian in his arms. But Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel the cold intent reflected in Wolf Saint Fa's malicious gaze. She frowned slightly. What the hell was the Wolf Saint technique doing? Could it be that he had really given up on resisting? This was not in line with the Wolf Saint technique's temperament. Thinking back to Yi Qing Qian's confident and proud expression earlier, Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly had an uneasy premonition. Why do I feel like she seemed to have missed something crucial? Yi Qing Luo hesitated. The Dark Elder took the opportunity to roll on the ground, fleeing to the side of the other 3 elders. Seeing such a situation, the Wolf Saint-Law slowly raised his head. The cold, mocking smile in his eyes and the curve of his lips gradually deepened. Yi-Ching Luo's heart tightened. Something was definitely wrong. She had to speed up and destroy the core of the fire array. The thought flashed past her mind, and Yi-Ching Luo's footsteps didn't hesitate any further as she took quick steps towards the direction of the Dark Elder. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly shone with a profound light. Wave after wave of mysterious light rippled in the air, gradually lingering in the surroundings and spreading out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chapter 1629. That elder cried out in shock. His body had already been torn into pieces by the incomparably sharp silver threads. Blood splattered. Flesh and blood splattered. That scene was extremely bloody. Many students present had never experienced a real massacre. The students of the various academies were busy dealing with Elder He, but when they saw this scene, their faces all turned pale. Especially when they saw Yi-Ching Luo brutally killing him, they were expressionless and extremely calm. They suddenly felt that it was the right decision to cooperate with the Heavenly Academy. The sky was filled with blood. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes were sharp and her glower flame fan swiftly flew towards the sky full of blood. A few drops of blood landed on the glower flame fan. Following that, the glower flame fan landed steadily in Yi-Ching Luo's hands. What kind of monster is she? She actually. She's not human. She's not human. Wolf Saint technique. How long are you going to hug this woman? If we all die, the spirit assimilation array will not be formed. Wolf Saint technique, this is the top priority of the dark forces. Do you want all of us to die here just for love affairs? The 3 elders were completely frightened by Yi-Ching Luo's ferocity and cruelty. Just as Yi-Ching Luo attacked that elder, Wolf Saint technique was the only one who could protect them. But he was still hugging Yi-Ching Qian as he watched that elder being torn into pieces under Yi-Ching Luo's cruel methods. The few elders were terrified of death. Completely infuriated. Facing 3 pairs of eyes filled with terror and resentment. Wolf Saint technique laughed sinisterly. In my eyes, you are not as important as you. The 3 dark elders' faces turned pale as they gritted their teeth and stared at Wolf Saint technique. They were the key tools for the spirit assimilation array to be formed. If not for them, the spirit assimilation array would be on the verge of collapse. Without the restraints of the array, these 1,500 over students would break the array sooner or later and leave the blazing cavern alive. Moreover, even if these students were unable to break the array, even if Gue Wu, who was still in the blazing cavern, based on his ability, he would definitely discover the array and break it. They didn't have as much time as they imagined. But Wolf Saint-Law was the key person. However, at the crucial moment, he chose the beauty and gave up on his plan. It doesn't matter whether you guys are here or not, as long as we wait. Wolf Xingfa indifferently looked at the 3 enraged faces and sneered with extreme disdain. In short, the soul-absorbing array will be formed, and none of these food will be able to escape. Lang Xingfa's unfinished words caused the faces of the 3 elders to reveal a hint of joy. Holy wolf technique, you mean? The elder's words had yet to leave his mouth. The entire area surrounded by the barriers suddenly trembled and the mountain swayed. The ground sank deeper and deeper. The cracks also couldn't bear the burden, and large pieces of cracks appeared. Elder Darkness and the Wolf Xingfa immediately looked in the direction of the 3rd flame formation core. Damn it! The 3rd fire formation I was destroyed again. Now, there was only 1 formation I left. Wolf Saint technique. If the last eye of the array is destroyed, the soul-absorbing array will be completely destroyed. The joy on the Dark Elder's face suddenly disappeared, replaced by anxiety and worry. 3 formation cores were destroyed in a row. Chapter 1630. And at this moment, Yiqing Luo's target was already the 4th blazing array core. Which meant the last array core. As long as the last array core was destroyed, this spirit assimilation array would be completely destroyed. The 3 Dark Elders realized Yiqing Luo's thoughts and instantly felt a chill down their spines. They instinctively gathered together as they leaned towards Wolf Saint Technique's back. One elder's blood could only extinguish 1 array core. Yiqing Luo wanted to destroy the last array core. She had to randomly kill one of the 3 elders. The last array core would be destroyed. However, at the same time when they were nearing Wolf Saint Technique, Wolf Saint Technique actually shifted his body, exposing the 3 of them completely in Yiqing Luo's field of vision. The Dark Elder's face turned black as he bellowed, "Wolf Saint Technique. What do you mean by this?" Wolf Saint Technique's sinister gaze swept past those 3 elders coldly, as though he didn't even have the intention to take a look at them as he averted his gaze, openly inviting her to destroy the array core. Was this Wolf Saint Technique's brain spoiled? Or what kind of new trick was this? Wolf Saint Technique had planned for such a long time. It was to use the most open and above-board reason to take away all the students' souls, and then push the blame onto Ghost Martial Artist. How could he possibly allow her to destroy the spirit assimilation array? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she tried to use the same method, attempting to use the silver threads to sweep up another Dark Elder. But the moment the glower flame fan in her hands released its profound chi, her arm was slapped hard. A numb feeling spread throughout her arm. With a dong, the glower flame fan fell onto the ground. The moment the silver threads lost their owner's profound chi control, they retracted back into the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo swiftly retracted her arm as she held onto her numb arm. She glanced sideways as she looked at the source of the energy which struck her arm earlier. In that instant, his pupils dilated. That was Shiruoyu. Shiruoyu attacked her. No. Not only Shiruoyu. Yiqing Luo saw that behind the handsome young man in front of her, those various academy students who were originally entangled with the dark forces, were now swarming towards her direction like a swarm of bees. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's astonishment, Shiruoyu, who was right in front of her, had already raised his palm and struck towards Yiqing Luo's chest. Yiqing Luo speedily retreated out of Shiruoyu's attack range. He quickly scanned his surroundings. These students all had extremely strange expressions on their faces. His face was filled with killing intent, and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. The footsteps coming towards her were extremely stiff. He was completely different from the students who were fighting against the dark forces just now. They seemed to be controlled by something. Control. Was it the mysterious Yin Qi? While Yiqing Luo was swiftly evading those students' attacks, she grabbed the nearest student and locked his lower jaw. When his eyes met the murderous intent in the eyes, he didn't see any aura of mysterious Yin energy in those eyes. Not the mysterious Yin Qi. Could it be? What kind of curse did those elders use? This thought flashed past her mind and Yiqing Luo immediately rejected it. Impossible. The spell that controlled the consciousness of more than 1,000 students required at least 2 hours to cast. Just a moment ago, these students were still trembling with the forces of darkness. The next moment, they turned into this state. Moreover, it was under the situation where she didn't know anything and was being controlled. It couldn't be the control of the spell. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, you didn't expect this, right? Look at you who values relationships and loyalty, will you choose to kill these students who have nothing to do with you, or keep on escaping? Chapter 1631. Yiqing Luo's expression darkened. What was going on? How could all these students be possessed in an instant? When did the underground forces do this? Qing Luo. Look at the sky. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's voice sounded from outside the crowd. Yiqing Luo then discovered that devil class's students were all outside the encirclement of those controlled students. There were more than 50 of them, and they all looked normal. Clearly, it wasn't being controlled. The other 1,000 or so students were all under their control. Only the students of devil class still maintained their own consciousness. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed Long Yunzhan's words and raised her head towards the sky. He took a look. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly turned steely green. In the sky, a huge creature spread its wings. Its feathers glowed brightly, as if they were coated in a multicolored light. It kept circling in the sky. Scarlet Flame. That was Scarlet Flame. Why did it come out of the pet space? She did not summon Crimson Flame at all. Yiqing Luo frowned and shouted towards the sky, "Qi Yan, come back." Clang, clang. A sharp and loud cry came from Qi Yan's mouth. However, the Scarlet Flame was still circling in the sky and had no intention of returning to Yiqing Luo's side. Scarlet Flame flapped its wings. A bright flame was released from the fiery wings. That ball of flame, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, pervaded the area within the boundary. In his mind, Old Man Song's panicked voice sounded, "Not good. Lass, that's a raging flame." Raging flames? What was that? The core skill of the vermilion bird. Old Man Song solemnly said, "The vermilion bird is a fire attribute sacred beast. The flames it releases are divided into light and dark. The flames of light have the effect of purifying one's heart and burning away all evil. As for the flames of darkness, they pollute people's hearts and achieve the ability to control them." Controlling people's hearts. These 4 words made Yiqing Luo's expression change drastically. You mean, the changes in these students are due to the control of raging flames? Old Man Song muttered to himself for a moment. You see for yourself. Raging flames were already burning around the students of the various academies. Scorching heat. But it would not burn people's skin. However, when the flames landed on the students, they were stunned. The murderous aura and killing intent on the students also became more and more intense. The hearts of these students had already been completely polluted by the blazing flames of Qi Yan. Why did it want to do this? Yiqing Luo's face turned pale. Qi Yan had already made a contract with it. Why would he do such a thing? I'm afraid, her contract with you is to reduce your suspicions. Old Man Song's voice was a bit gloomy. With Chi-Chi's feelings for Vermilion Bird as a precedent. And then there was the Vermilion Bird's contract with him. No one would doubt the Vermilion Bird. That was why the Vermilion Bird was able to, he used the flames to pollute the hearts of the students of the various academies. Making the students from the various academies to be manipulated by the Vermilion Bird, to lay their hands on Yiqing Luo. The Vermilion Bird Danger Ground wouldn't do something like this for no reason. What was the Vermilion Bird's goal? Ah! Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out from outside the crowd. A figure was sent flying out. Tong Ziqing fell to the ground in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. Who is it? Long Yunzhan and Yan Xiaoyi's vigilant voices rang. Each of them looked around the surroundings anxiously. Chapter 1632. When the devil class students heard that, they immediately raised their heads and looked towards the sky. Yan Xiao-yi helped the injured Tong Ziqing up and looked towards the sky. What happened to Qi Yan? Did Qi Yan attack Ziqing? No. No. Kitty Lee's starry eyes stared at Qi Yan vigilantly. There's someone on Qi Yan's back. On Qi Yan's back. Wasn't Qi Yan at tsundere and wouldn't let anyone get on its back? At the foundation, when they were crossing the sea of fire. It was half threatening and half coaxing that made Qi Yan carry someone. Now there was someone who could stand on Qi Yan's back. Devil class students narrowed their eyes and looked carefully at Qi Yan's back. As expected, they saw a straight figure standing on Qi Yan's back. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, and after she saw the figure on Qi Yan's back, her pupils constricted. At this moment, Wolf St. Law and the three elders who had been watching by the side, when they saw the person, their faces revealed an ecstatic expression. Wolf St. Law's joy was still reserved. But those three elders seemed to have seen hope, saw the light. Directly passing Wolf St. Law, he rushed towards the person on Qi Yan's back and respectfully knelt on the ground. Pharaoh He. Pharaoh He. This person was indeed one of the four great pharaohs from the dark forces. Wolf St. Law had many dark guardians and dark elders. Among the dark guardians, there were only 4 St. Law, divided into 4 parts. Among the dark elders, there were 4 pharaohs, divided into 4 parts. To become the pharaohs among the elders. This person must be an opponent not to be underestimated. And he was a pharaoh who knew a wide variety of dark spells. In conclusion, dealing with this pharaoh was not as easy as dealing with the elders. Looking at the expressions of these 3 elders, it was as if they had seen their own parents. Looking at Wolf St. Law's relieved look, Yiqing Luo was almost 100% sure of the guess in her heart. The person on Qi Yan's back looked down at everything from a high vantage point. That gaze seemed to be looking at the ants on the ground. High and mighty, as if he was above everyone's head. Immediately, that person leaped from Qi Yan's back onto the ground. Only then did everyone clearly see the appearance of the person before them. Gender, male. He was about 40 years old. It was very high above sea level, but its body was thin. His face looked as if it had been sucked dry. Pieces of flesh were sunken in, leaving only a layer of skin wrapped around his bones. This face was already scary enough. But the most horrifying thing was the pair of sinister eyes on that skinny face. Dark and cold. It seemed to be filled with endless malice. With just a glance, one would feel as if they were being stared at by a venomous snake. Even if it was Yiqing Luo, she was also terrified by that pair of eyes. Pharaoh He, you're finally here. The soul-assimilating formation won't be able to hold on much longer. An elder knelt and crawled towards the man's leg. Pharaoh Crane glanced at the person at his feet. Those terrifying eyes were devoid of any emotion. The elder took a step back in shock. But he didn't have the time to move. The elder's body suddenly trembled violently. Soon after, a loud bang was heard. The elder exploded in front of everyone's eyes. Blood gushed out. Flesh splattered. It crashed onto the barrier that Pharaoh He had conjured. It didn't touch Pharaoh He's body. The voices of agreement from the other 2 elders were immediately stuck in their throats. One by one, they curled up on the spot. Chapter 1633. This scene fell into the eyes of the Devil Class's students. The Devil Class's students couldn't help but felt their scalps go numb. This Pharaoh He killed people without saying a word. The people who were killed were his own people. It could be seen that this Pharaoh He totally didn't care about human lives. What made everyone's heart palpitate was none of them saw when Pharaoh He made his move. Because of Pharaoh He's appearance. Those 1,000 over students stood stiffly on the spot, as they stopped their attacks on Yiqing Luo. Each and every one of the students were like a puppet without a soul. Without anyone controlling them, they wouldn't move at all. Yiqing Luo's vision was fixated on Pharaoh He's every move. From earlier when Pharaoh He leaped down from the sky. It could be seen that Pharaoh He wasn't like the other elders, who only knew how to cast spells, but didn't have any martial prowess. Pharaoh He not only had a strong ability to cast spells, and his skills were not inferior to the Guardians. It looked like the reason why Qi Yan suddenly released the blazing flames to pollute the students' hearts. It was definitely related to this Pharaoh He. The profound Yin Qi on that Pharaoh He is very dense. Old Man Song said in a deep voice in her mind. Yiqing Luo nodded, I felt it too. That profound Yin Qi on Pharaoh He. It was completely different from what she had sensed from the other members of the Dark Coalition. That profound Yin Qi on Pharaoh He was so dense that profound Yin Qi was emitted from his body, from his bones. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo had a feeling. It was as if he was the one who created the mysterious Yin Qi. It made one inexplicably feel repulsed. Pharaoh He didn't even bother to take a look at Wolf Saint Dharma. His sinister eyes looked towards Yiqing Luo. A strange sneer appeared on his skinny face. He lifted his feet and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That footwork was light and his posture was leisurely. Imperceptibly, it released a strong pressure. Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan seemed to have realized something as he anxiously rushed to Yiqing Luo's side. But he was stopped by Yiqing Luo's sharp cry from the metal, don't come over. His target is me. Long Yunzhan's footsteps halted. He's not weak. He's no ordinary elder. Yiqing Luo's vision stared vigilantly at Pharaoh He, don't alarm him first. While speaking, Pharaoh He had already walked in front of Yiqing Luo. The mysterious Yin Qi that was rushing towards him. This made Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Looking at her tightly knitted eyebrows, Pharaoh Crane's lips curled into a cold smile. Curious. Pharaoh He's voice was extremely hoarse. When he spoke, it was like a sawtooth cutting her ear. Yiqing Luo knew what Pharaoh He was asking. She was curious as to why Qi Yan would listen to Pharaoh He. She had already connected with Qi Yan in her mind. The soul contract between her and Qi Yan was not lifted. However, she couldn't talk to Qi Yan. To be more precise, Qi Yan had completely shielded her aura. This Pharaoh greatly treasures rare talents like you. Pharaoh He's voice was filled with coldness, causing those who heard it to feel a chill down their spine. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't hear any hint of cherishing. This Pharaoh will let you die knowing why. As Pharaoh He said that, his vision shot towards Wolf Saint Dharma who was standing not too far away, hugging a lady, as a sliver of disdain flashed past his eyes. Take it as your reward for injuring that trash into such a sorry state. Wolf Saint Dharma's body stiffened slightly. Chapter 1634. But in consideration of the lady in his arms. In the end, Wolf Saint Dharma suppressed his anger. Seeing Wolf Saint Magic compromise, the disdain in Pharaoh Crane's eyes deepened. Yiqing Luo looked at the atmosphere between the both of them. She could roughly guess that the relationship between the both of them wasn't harmonious. In Pharaoh Crane's mouth, Wolf Saint Magic was said to be trash. Looking at Wolf Saint Magic's reaction. If it wasn't for the fact that he was carrying Yiqing Qian, if it wasn't for the current situation where they couldn't fight amongst themselves, Wolf Saint Magic would probably pounce forward and fight to the death with Pharaoh Crane. The dark forces were divided into two categories. They were either protectors or elders. The interaction between these two groups was bound to be mutual comparison and belittling. absolutely unable to achieve peaceful coexistence and mutual support. This Saint Magic and Pharaoh. They were natural enemies. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in her thoughts, Pharaoh Crane had already shifted his gaze back onto her. Did you think that the flame beast rampage in the flame nest was really caused by the dark forces? Pharaoh Crane's lips curled upwards as he gave a scornful sneer. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her heart trembled violently as her eyes were filled with astonishment. If this sentence was said by someone from the dark forces, she absolutely wouldn't believe it. But, Pharaoh Crane's arrogance, he totally didn't put these young students in his eyes. He couldn't be bothered to lie to her. And the meaning of Pharaoh Crane's words, which meant, the flame beast rampage in the foundation ground wasn't because of the dark forces, but to absorb the souls of those cultivators who came because of the prophecy of the divine object's descent. But, because the scarlet flames raging flames had tainted the consciousness of those flame beasts. Which caused those flame beasts who would never hurt anyone if they didn't touch the heart meridian, to rampage. Indeed, at that time, when she was sucked into the foundation ground by that strong whirlwind, she didn't encounter the flame beast's attacks. But when she followed Chi-Chi's guidance and found Vermilion Bird, the flame beast started to appear. So, right from the start, Vermilion Bird was acting in front of her. Vermilion Bird wanted to make use of the flame beasts to let her quickly accept its existence. Since Vermilion Bird was helping the dark forces and stood on the dark forces' side, why did it forcefully form a soul contract with her? Little girl, you're really smart. You figured it out so quickly. Pharaoh He's disdainful gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and immediately looked towards the scarlet flame on the horizon. He waved his hand. Scarlet flame immediately stopped circling and flew toward Pharaoh He. As he approached Pharaoh He obediently stood beside him. The phoenix feathers that were overflowing with light and vibrant colors had an elegant and noble form. However, it was filled with a chill that made one shiver in fear. When Qi Yan's blood-red pupils which were filled with raging flames met Yiqing Luo's gaze, Yiqing Luo didn't see any trace of emotion in its eyes. He wasn't as arrogant as he was when they first met. He was no longer as rude and domineering as he was when they first met. He was as still as water, as if he had lost all his thoughts. It was just like, that's right. It was like a puppet that had lost its soul. He was the same as the students from the other academies. Even though his body was moving. However, he could not see any soul in his eyes. It's you. Yiqing Luo reacted, you're the one who used your dark forces curse to control Qi Yan. Ha ha ha. Pharaoh He laughed out loud, little lass, you're really smart. You're getting more and more in my eyes. What he meant was that Yiqing Luo's guess was right. Qi Yan listened to Pharaoh He's command. Chapter 1635. In the heart meridian zone of the foundation, Qi Yan had already been controlled by Pharaoh He's curse. Then, why would Qi Yan choose to form a contract with her? And it was a soul contract. One must know that Vermilion Bird was one of the 4 sacred beasts. Even Pharaoh. He should also want to get Vermilion Bird. What was his motive for letting Vermilion Bird form a contract with her? Little lass, do you want to save those people whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames? Pharaoh He revealed a smile. Yiqing Luo pressed her lips together vigilantly. Pharaoh He gave a low laugh. If you want to save those whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames, you only need to kill Vermilion Bird. The dark flames brought by Vermilion Bird will be removed. Yiqing Luo frowned. Indeed, this Pharaoh He was just teasing her. The people from the dark forces had some understanding of her character. They knew that she would absolutely not kill Vermilion Bird for her own survival or for those students. Let's not talk about whether she had the ability to kill Vermilion Bird. Even if she did, She would absolutely not do it. Vermilion Bird was her contracted battle pet. And also Chi-Chi's friend. If she killed Vermilion Bird, where would Chi-Chi be? Can't bear to. Pharaoh, he gave a weird laugh as his slender eyes squinted, adding a tinge of treacherous coldness. Yi-Ching Luo pursed her lips in silence. This Pharaoh, his character was extremely strange. There was really no normal person in the dark forces. Then, this Pharaoh shall be a good person to the end and help you make a choice. Pharaoh, his sinister eyes were suddenly covered with a circle of black profound yin chi. Following that, he raised his hand and conjured a hand seal. A ray of black light charged straight towards Chi Yen. The scarlet flame let out a sharp cry. Suddenly it flapped its wings and flew into the sky. A ball of blazing flames once again covered the sky and earth as it fell down. Those originally motionless 1,000 over students. At the moment when the cry sounded, Li Tianlan's expression changed. They started to move. Like puppets whose strings had been pulled, they swarmed towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction and surrounded her. Pharaoh, his sharp voice rang out amidst the crowd with a deep laugh. Little girl, since you don't want to kill the Vermilion Bird, then, kill these people who have been bewitched by the Vermilion Bird. Otherwise, the one who will die will be you. Yi-Ching Luo retreated swiftly. A trace of hostility flashed across her charming eyes. Birds of a feather really do flock together. You people from the dark forces really like to use the same insidious methods. Before this, he had used the mysterious Yin energy to control Long Yunjian, forcing her to kill Long Yunjian to save the World Group brothers. Now, he was using this method again. He wanted to force her to make a choice. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes sunk slightly. They would not allow the dark forces to control them. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath and looked in the direction of Chi Yen. She gripped the glowing fan in her hand tightly. Seeing Yi-Ching Luo's actions, Old Crane laughed out loud. Looks like you still did. Before Pharaoh he could finish his words, suddenly, the entire area surrounded by the barrier shook violently. The cracked ground was collapsing into pieces. A powerful aura wantonly unfolded in the entire area. Roar, 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 a tiger's roar which was filled with tension reverberated throughout the entire blazing lair. This roar penetrated the barrier as it spread in all directions of the blazing lair. Bam! A loud sound was heard. They saw a huge white tiger with a snow-white body suddenly appearing in front of everyone's eyes as it descended from the sky. Chapter 1636. Yi-Ching Luo sneered, a cold-blooded, heartless, emotionless monster like you, how would you understand? After saying that, she looked at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, go find Chi Yen and wake him up. Roar! Chi-Chi let out a tiger roar, and the huge creature soared towards the scarlet flames in the sky. After knowing that Chi Yen was being controlled by the secret art, Chi-Chi was so anxious that it couldn't wait to rush out to stop Chi Yen. The current Chi-Chi was filled with guilt. In the heart vein, it actually didn't notice anything wrong with Chi Yen. It actually didn't notice that Chi Yen was being controlled. If it had noticed earlier, Chi Yen was very likely, then it wouldn't be called the Dark Forces, a tool to deal with its master. It didn't believe that Chi Yen would really lose his nature. That arrogant and extremely arrogant Chi Yen. He would absolutely not be willing to be controlled by others. Chi-Chi rushed to the front of Chi Yen. But before it could get in contact with Chi Yen, Chi Yen opened its mouth and spat out a blazing flame at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi evaded in time, but its fur was still grazed by the fire. Ha ha ha. There's no power in this world that can break my secret art. Even a sacred beast is the same. Pharaoh, he laughed loudly, extremely confident in his curse. A young lass, whose hair hadn't even grown out. His lord was actually so fearful of her. That group of guardians from the dark forces were really becoming more and more useless. They actually fell into the hands of this young lass time and time again. Pharaoh, he looked at the disheveled wolf Saint Law with disdain and snorted coldly. This wolf Saint Law was usually extremely high profile in the dark forces. It could be said that even in front of his lord, he was always sloppy and didn't give any face to anyone. But now, he was in such a dire state that he had to seek help from him. After today's mission was completed, all the credit belonged to his Pharaoh's forces. His status in the Pharaoh's forces could surpass the status of the Saint Law. The status of an elder could also surpass the status of a guardian. With this thought in mind, the complacent smile on Pharaoh's face grew thicker. It deeply hurt Wolf Saint Law's eyes. He resisted the disdainful gaze that Pharaoh shot at him. Between his brows, there was a sinister chill. The two of them looked calm, but each had their own thoughts. Pharaoh's appearance gave the remaining two elders some room to breathe a sigh of relief. They immediately found a safe place and continued to cast spells to ensure that the soul-assimilating array would not be destroyed. Yiqing Luo was surrounded by those 1,000 over-students. He couldn't hurt them, so he could only dodge. He could only control his strength and knock them out. He had no way of finding Pharaoh Crane. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Pharaoh also began to participate in the embroidery soul assimilation formation. 3 of the soul assimilating array's fiery eyes had already been destroyed. The only remaining eye of the formation. It supported the entire soul assimilation array. Moreover, Pharaoh's incantation and mental strength were things that these elders could not compare to. But within a short period of time, the damaged array which was destroyed by Yiqing Luo had already been restored. The speed at which Pharaoh repaired the spirit assimilating array made Yiqing Luo shocked. She had spent so much time to destroy 3 formation cores. However, it was easily repaired by Pharaoh Crane. If he didn't get rid of Pharaoh, once the soul assimilating array was formed, all of them would die here. Furthermore, his soul had been devoured, and he would never be able to reincarnate. The last formation core flame. It must be exterminated. Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly turned cold as she raised her leg, sending the wave of students who were surrounding her flying away. Chapter 1637. Pharaoh noticed Yiqing Luo's actions as his eyes were filled with disdain. Overestimating yourself. Since you can't wait to send yourself to death, I shall grant you your wish. Pharaoh's fingers formed a hand seal as he muttered. Following that, a ball of black flame suddenly sprang up on his fingertips. Dense mysterious yin qi danced at the tip of his finger. Swoosh! The mysterious yin qi, which looked like a burning flame, suddenly formed a huge coiling dragon on top of the spell. The huge black dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Yiqing Luo's face. No wonder he's a Pharaoh-level character from the Dark Forces. He can even use offensive spells with ease. Old Man Tsang saw the huge dragon formed by the profound yin qi through Yiqing Luo's eyes and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Offensive spells. Yiqing Luo evaded the huge dragon's attack as she looked at it puzzledly. Offensive spells are to use one's own mental power to combine with sinister spells to summon something with battle ability to help oneself win a beautiful battle. Old Man Tsang explained, like now, the dark spell that Pharaoh is casting is to summon the huge dragon for him to attack. Yiqing Luo listened to his explanation. She bent her body and evaded the huge dragon's attack which was about to swallow her up. Her footsteps also moved quickly. You're not joking, are you? Summoning a huge dragon and using it to attack the enemy. Wasn't this a summoner summoning a little divine dragon? Moreover, this wasn't a real dragon. It was a dragon formed by the profound yin qi. No matter how she fought it, it wouldn't die. Yi Qing Luo was depressed. Heavens must be playing a trick on her. Your target is the two elders behind him. As long as you get the blood of one of them and destroy the last array, the rest will be much easier. Old Man Tsang reminded. Easy to say, this pharaoh he won't give me a chance to get close. Yi Qing Luo frowned. This pharaoh he's ability is not as good as you. Old Man Tsang pondered for a moment. He's only relying on casting a curse to create pressure on you. As long as you can think of a way to stop him from casting the curse, you can absolutely use his blood to destroy the last array. Even if it's to stop him from casting the spell, it's still an extremely difficult task. Yi Qing Luo looked at the huge dragon in front of her, whose attacks were getting more and more ferocious, as she was already feeling frustrated from hiding. This huge dragon of profound energy had been protecting Pharaoh He all this time. Even approaching Pharaoh Crane was a problem for her. Not to mention stopping Pharaoh Crane from casting the curse. Unless, Yi Qing Luo's eyes sparkled with a sliver of brilliance. If he couldn't do it openly, then he could do it in the dark, to deal with such a despicable and shameless opponent. Naturally, he had to use extreme measures. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as she looked at the giant dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. His figure suddenly swayed. With the naked eye, one could only see a white skirt fluttering in the wind, like a gorgeous flower blooming. Immediately after, a feather fan that flickered with a demonic and mysterious light appeared, carrying with it an extremely dense and powerful force. It directly blasted that huge dragon into pieces. Pharaoh He was immensely pleased with himself for using the dark curse to summon the huge dragon. That huge dragon was actually defeated by Yi Qing Luo's counterattack. And because of the curse's backlash, Pharaoh He's chest felt stuffy as his body tensed up and trembled. He abruptly retreated a few steps. His slender figure swayed slightly. He finally stabilized his footsteps. Chapter 1638. Pharaoh He's reaction was not bad. Just as Yi Qing Luo's leg was about to hit him, his body moved backwards. Following that, he somersaulted sideways and avoided Yi Qing Luo's leg. Although he wasn't injured. But Pharaoh He had suffered losses in Yi Qing Luo's hands time and time again. That pride in his heart had suffered a serious blow. Immediately, his face sunk and his fingers formed a hand seal as he recited a series of incantations which Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. Yi Qing Luo could only retreat when she saw this. Pharaoh He's incantations were many, sinister and poisonous. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to take the risk to test Pharaoh He's incantations. Moreover, only she was clear about it. She had just destroyed the huge dragon and attacked Pharaoh He. How much energy had she expended? Pharaoh He's incantations were not as powerful as what ordinary people imagined. Even if Pharaoh He was in the profound grade, he might not be Yi Qing Luo's opponent. But Pharaoh He could rely on his offensive incantations to deplete Yi Qing Luo's energy. Releasing the profound energy of the sky profound realm consumed 2/3 of his profound energy, and smashed the giant dragon into pieces in one fell swoop. Yi Qing Luo was already feeling exhausted. But she absolutely could not show any signs of exhaustion. Once she revealed any signs of exhaustion, Pharaoh He would definitely follow up with another attack. By then, she wouldn't be able to stop him. But now, she had shattered the huge dragon into pieces and made Pharaoh He feel embarrassed. This had already caused a kind of shock in Pharaoh He's heart. Pharaoh He didn't dare to casually choose to attack. She could also get a moment of rest. Young lady is indeed arrogant. Pharaoh He's heart was overflowing with anger. In his eyes, Yi Qing Luo was just a small sky profound cultivator. Not to mention that she was just a small cultivator who had just stepped into the sky profound stage. even if she was a sky-profound 5th-grade cultivator. In front of him, she was just a piece of trash that could be easily oppressed. She was just a silly lass. Her innate talent was slightly stronger. Did she really think that she was that powerful? He pointed his hand seal forward. Yiqing Luo felt the ground suddenly shaking incessantly. Her heart tightened. Instinctively, she took a step back. And the moment she retreated, a sharp object shrouded in a black aura rose from the ground where she had been standing. They were sharp rocks formed from the ground. If only Yiqing Luo had not taken this step back. Perhaps, she was about to be split in half by that sharp stone. This he was really going for the kill. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think further, Yiqing Luo felt the surging feeling from the ground once again. She glanced at the extremely sharp stone. He quickly dodged to the side. Immediately following that, pieces of sharp huge rocks rose up from the ground, as though they were following Yiqing Luo's footsteps. As they kept following her footsteps, as pieces of them cracked. After a while, rows of extremely sharp boulders had already emerged from the ground of the entire area. Looking at Yiqing Luo's battered and exhausted appearance, he scoffed. His fingers, which were forming seals, quickly changed their movements. The dense mysterious yin qi surged out rapidly. Ha! This old man wants to see how much energy you have to escape. He sneered. Following that, he grabbed hold of the time and walked in front of those two elders. Together with them, they displayed their secret arts to set up the spirit assimilation array. With the addition of the spirit assimilation array received a huge supply of energy. Chapter 1639. Girl, we must stop that At this moment, Old Man Tsang wished he could rush out of the azure dew bracelet and transform into a spiritual body to stop Yiqing Luo dodged the sharp boulders, her forehead was already full of sweat. I also want to stop it, but, this damn thing, how on earth can it stop? This boulder had completely locked onto her. She continued to walk around the boulders. The entire ground was filled with boulders, and it was so deep that no one could stand on it. Devil classes students were trying their best to stop those 1,000 over students from disturbing Yiqing Luo. Chi and the vermilion bird were still circling in the air. Could it be, was he really going to let Shijua come out? Shiju was still a young wolf-type mirage beast. This kind of battle situation summoned Shiju. It was equivalent to sending Shiju to its death. Lass, your memory is so bad. Seeing that Yiqing Luo thought of Shiju, Old Man Tsang also suddenly recalled, didn't Shiju swallow the Gue Wu who guarded the 18 levels of hell in the Heavenly Pagoda's experiment? Gue Wu. That meatball that could continuously regenerate. Before they participated in the interclass competition. It was a test of strength organized by the academy. Once they entered the Heavenly Pagoda, the final obstacle would be this Gue Wu. Right, Shiju had devoured Gue Wu. In other words, he had inherited Gue Wu's regeneration ability. There was this effect. Yiqing Luo totally didn't need to worry about Shiju's safety. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo summoned Shiju out. Upon receiving the order, Shiju immediately charged in He's direction. He frowned slightly. As though he had not expected that Yiqing Luo could actually summon out a war pet. Just as he was about to retract his mental power from the soul assimilation array, a voice suddenly rang out. A figure suddenly flashed in front of him. Following that, he saw Wolf Saint carrying Yiqing Qian as it blocked in front of Shiju. He frowned slightly, his face full of displeasure. Please hurry up. Seeing Holy Wolf taking the initiative to help, he sneered inwardly. He did not reply to the wolf's sacred technique. Instead, he closed his eyes and released his psychic energy once more. Yiqing Luo was also paying attention to Shiju's movements. Seeing that Shiju had been surrounded by the wolf saint technique, they immediately started fighting. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Shiju's combat ability had yet to undergo training. How could he be a match for the wolf saint technique? Old man Tsang, if I were to release the thunderclap arts now. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth, she couldn't sit still and wait for death. A secret technique manual to clear the first 2 floors of the Purgatory Tower. She had learned it, but she could not use it in front of others. But now, he couldn't care less. No. Old Tsang stopped him without hesitation. If you use the thunderclap art, then the dark powers will know that the Azure Dew bracelet is in your hands. Are you sure that you have the ability to protect the Azure Dew bracelet? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. She turned around and avoided the sharp boulder that was chasing after her. He looked sideways at Shiju, who was obviously at a disadvantage in the hands of the Wolf Saint technique. His gaze shifted to the side. Seeing the 50 over Devil class students being surrounded by 1,000 over students, not even a drop of water could trickle through. He couldn't hurt those students. The students of Devil class could only knock those students unconscious. However, there were simply too many of them. Their physical strength was also limited. Their bodies were covered with wounds of various sizes. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed tightly. Clang clang. A sharp cry came from the air. Yiqing Luo raised her head. She saw Chi-Chi's charred fur. Whereas Chi-Yen flapped his wings, without any intention of showing mercy to Chi-Chi. Chapter 1640. Lass. Don't be rash. Sensing the raging fury in Yiqing Luo's heart, Old Man Tsang's voice was filled with urgency. Once Yiqing Luo released the thunderclap arts, the dark forces would most likely place their attention on the thunderclap arts. And then, the secret of the Azure Dew bracelet would be exposed to the lower realms. If the news of the Azure Dew bracelet's reappearance reached the upper realms, this lower realm, it would probably set off a bloodbath. Lass, you. The more Old Man Tsang thought, the more anxious he got. But he hadn't finished his words. Suddenly, he felt an extremely horrifying profound qi flowing on Yiqing Luo's body. The enchanting profound qi enveloped Yiqing Luo from head to toe. The surrounding profound qi was like a raging storm, surging around Yiqing Luo's body continuously. This lass. Could it be? Bam bam bam. A deafening explosion was heard. Following that, those huge rocks which kept on following Yiqing Luo's footsteps which kept gushing out from the ground started to explode. The entire stretch of sharp boulders that rose from the ground had already turned into ruins. Actually, Pharaoh he saw that his curse was destroyed by Yiqing Luo using such a barbaric method. His face revealed a shocked and aghast expression. When he opened his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo, Pharaoh he had even stopped chanting the incantation, only to see that young lady floating above the ruins. Her green and white uniform was fluttering under the strong wind. That long black hair which had reached her buttocks danced on her shoulders, as misty as smoke. That devastatingly beautiful face was extremely gloomy and cold, suffused with a murderous viciousness. The most dazzling thing was that pair of eyes which were filled with killing intent. The brilliance circulated, like the brightest stars in the sky, bewitching people's hearts, taking their lives. This kind of imposing manner. It was totally different from the previous imposing manner. The current Yiqing Luo was like a queen who controlled everything in the world. Above the 9 heavens, no one could match her. The first level of the sky profound realm was actually this powerful. The current I Ching Luo had unleashed all the energy in her body. Sky Profound Supreme. It was known as the supreme profound strength of the strong. Only the Earth Profound third-grade Pharaoh he was able to use his mental power to cast a curse, yet I Ching Luo could use her profound energy to directly break it. Girl, you're too reckless. Old Man Song was aware of the motive behind I Ching Luo's actions. His heart was somewhat distressed, but he was extremely helpless. At this moment, Old Man Song was extremely fed up with his current self. He was unable to manifest his spiritual body. Unable to help I Ching Luo. He could only watch helplessly as I Ching Luo fell into a predicament from within the Azure Dew bracelet. I Ching Luo's current body, because of the profound yin qi which could control her consciousness at any time, was totally unable to unleash all her profound energy. Otherwise, it would be easy for the mysterious yin aura to seize the opportunity to control her. But, I Ching Luo still released her profound energy. He could not use the thunderclap incantation. He could only use this most direct method. Wolf Saint Technique. Quick! Stop her. Now only you can stop her. Pharaoh he looked at I Ching Luo's icy cold murderous gaze as his face turned pale from fright. Pharaoh craned strength. Lied in his curses. But his curses were all dark curses. It was a forbidden sinister curse in this world. It broke the laws of this world. Naturally, it would receive the punishment and backlash from the heavenly way. Pharaoh he was very clear. Even if he used his curses to stop I Ching Luo's footsteps. Chapter 1641. As for himself, because of the excessive consumption of his mental power. Instead, he would collapse even more than I Ching Luo. Wolf Saint Technique split Shi Ju apart with one palm as he shot a cold glance at Elder He. The expression on his face revealed a sliver of disdain. Trash. You. Elder He's expression sunk. This Wolf Saint Technique was obviously taking revenge for calling him trash earlier. Wolf Saint Technique gave a cold harumph as he retracted his gaze and headed towards I Ching Luo's direction. No matter how much they didn't get along. Under the current situation, they couldn't fight amongst themselves. I Ching Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't even bother to look at Wolf Saint Technique. Just as Wolf Saint Technique's attack was about to hit her, I Ching Luo's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. In a blink of an eye, I Ching Luo appeared beside Shi Ju. Earlier Wolf Saint Technique's palm had struck Shi Ju onto the ground, making it unable to move. I Ching Luo looked at Shi Ju who was lying on the ground, spitting out blood. The coldness in her eyes grew thicker. Slut! How dare you belittle this Saint Technique? Wolf Saint Technique bellowed angrily as he hugged I Ching Qian tightly as he leapt forward. With a palm strike, it brought along a black profound yin whirlwind as it struck towards I Ching Luo's back. The baleful aura was like a ray. As though it wanted to devour everything in the world. I Ching Luo's squinted eyes shot out a chilly intent, as it became more and more penetrating. Her fingers which were caressing Shi Ju's black fur moved. The glower flame fan instantly left her palm. In the middle of her palm, a few numbers flipped rapidly. Following that, like a sharp blade, it shot towards the palm wind behind her. Boom! The glower flame fan's enchanting red glow collided with the palm wind which was filled with profound yin qi. The black aura was constantly flowing. That valiant aura was like an avalanche, as though it wanted to suppress that enchanting red glow completely. But, just at this moment, that red glow which was enveloped by the profound yin qi. Suddenly, it released a stream of blazing flame. Carrying an extremely terrifying aura, it broke apart all the aura. Boom boom boom. Another one or two loud vibrations were heard. As the glowing flame fan spun rapidly, it actually split apart the mysterious yin qi of the palm wind. The bewitching red light gradually gained the upper hand. Langxing Fei's expression sunk, as if he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to have such overbearing strength. He immediately pushed out his palm again. The violent palm wind was accompanied by dense mysterious yin qi. In an instant, the palm wind surged like a flood. Qing Luo. Madam Qing Luo. When the devil class students saw that, they were filled with worry. Unfortunately, they couldn't find the time. The encirclement of more than 1,000 students had completely exhausted all of their strength. Don't mind me. Yi Qing Luo's chilly voice revealed an extreme chill. Her frosty face had already been frozen into ice. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth lingered around her body. Gradually, a white protective barrier was formed. She narrowed her eyes and the corners of her mouth curled up into a cold smile. It was ridiculous. It was simply laughable. A few devil class students, because of this moment of absent-mindedness, were struck by students from other academies. Meanwhile, the bewitching red light that was surrounded by the black gas suddenly released a dazzling light. Bang! The glower flame fan collided with that surging palm wind. Following that, it went straight towards Langxing Fei's face. What? Langxing Fei stared at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. This sky-profound first-grade cultivator actually broke through his profound chi attack. How could this be possible? One must know that after the sky-profound stage, the difference of one grade was like a world of difference. A sky-profound second-grade cultivator could easily suppress a sky-profound first-grade cultivator. Not to mention, he was now a sky-profound third-grade cultivator. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.